Chapter 17-19. Yi Qinghan and Old Liang looked at each other. Old Liang was certain that the man in front of him was Yi Qinghan. Even if his temperament was vastly different from before, Bai Yuan hadn't changed much. Old Liang didn't say anything, as if he didn't want to expose Yi Qinghan's location. A moment later, Yi Qinghan exhaled and nodded at Old Liang. He then said to the Qin siblings and Bai Yuan, "Go to the trading company and wait for me. I've met an acquaintance, so I'll go greet him first before going to look for you." The Qin siblings didn't know Old Liang, so they didn't notice anything amiss and left with Bai Yuan. Yi Qinghan silently walked down the street with Old Liang following not far behind. He watched as Yi Qinghan arrived at a remote lake. The two stood side by side without speaking. Yi Qinghan held the dark gold rod the entire time. He no longer trusted Old Liang. If he betrayed him once, he would betray him a second time. After a long time, Old Liang said, "Fellow Taoist Yi, I'm very sorry about what happened last time, but I had no choice but to do this in order to save the Spirit Lady sect. However, I've already completed the task they gave me. Your matter will no longer involve the Spirit Lady sect, so we will never be enemies. I hope you won't take it to heart. Because of your plan, I almost died in the great Buddha city. Now I have less than 10,000 years left to live. Would you believe me if I said I wouldn't take it to heart?" Yi Qinghan asked indifferently. Old Liang smiled bitterly. If this happened to him, how could he not take it to heart? "Fellow Taoist Yi, I know you're dissatisfied, but you should also understand that when some people must be sacrificed, you'll make the same decision as me. After all, I'm not familiar with you, and your life and death has nothing to do with me. However, you're a genius and I don't want you to die because of me, so I won't expose your identity. However, you shouldn't hold a grudge against me. Your words carry enormous weight and I believe you. Even if you kill me in the future, I'll accept it." Old Liang stared at Yi Qinghan and said in a deep voice. Yi Qinghan's lips curled into a cold smile. His evil aura was terrifying. "I'm no match for you right now, and I can't argue with you. However, if you're willing to remain neutral, then that's for the best. I have no choice but to believe your promise. From today onwards, you and I are strangers. We've never met or known each other." In the end, Yi Qinghan compromised. He had no choice but to lower his head under the eave. "All right." Elder Liang nodded and said, "If you're grateful to that girl Yuan, then let me take her away. Otherwise, you'll kill her sooner or later. You don't have the ability to protect her, at least not now. Wait until you've recovered your peak battle strength and have the ability to protect her. Then, you can ask the Spiritual Lady sect for her. How about it?" Yi Qinghan nodded. Old Liang was right. In the next battle, Bai Yuan would not be able to survive. He would not be able to defend himself either. "If you come here again tonight, I will send her here." After Yi Qinghan finished speaking, he turned and left. Whether Old Liang's goodwill was real or fake, he could only accept it and not reject it. Yi Qinghan quickly returned to the main street and found the branch of the Sacred Spirit Trading Company. It was luxurious and grand. There was an endless stream of people and carriages in front of the door. There were countless experts. Using the crowd, he quickly entered the Sacred Spirit Trading Company. The Qin sisters and Bai Yuan had already walked around inside. Yi Qinghan's eyes were like torches as he scanned the surroundings. He found that Mu Zun and the 2 7-star bounty hunters were also here. In order to avoid bumping into them, he chose to avoid them. The 4 of them walked around the 3rd floor for half a day. They found some pills that could replenish their vitality and left the trading company. After returning to the city lord's mansion, Yi Qinghan did not go into seclusion. Instead, he waited for the sky to turn dark and sent Bai Yuan to Old Liang's side. However, Bai Yuan could not see Yi Qinghan's decision. She was enjoying her current happiness. Yi Qinghan accompanied Bai Yuan until the sky turned dark. Then, he invited Qin Xianxian to bring Bai Yuran out of the city lord's mansion. They took advantage of the night to enter the secluded lake. Qin Xianxian knew Yi Qinghan's identity, so there was no need to hide it. Before Bai Yuran could discover old Liang, she was suppressed by Yi Qinghan and fell into a coma. Old Liang walked out of the darkness. He was very satisfied with Yi Qinghan's decisive decision. I've harmed you once and helped you once. From now on, we're even. When you reach the eternal realm, come to the Spirit Lady sect to take her away. No one will stop you. Old Liang carried Bai Yuran on his back and disappeared into the night after saying this. Qin Xianxian did not know Yi Qinghan's decision. Only the two of them were left by the lake. After a long silence, she realized that Yi Qinghan's power made it hard for her to breathe. Miss Qin, pretend that you didn't see what happened tonight. You can't tell anyone, including your grandfather. Otherwise, it'll be too late to regret it. Yi Qinghan reminded her softly. Qin Xianxian felt cold under Yi Qinghan's cold stare. She felt as if she had fallen into an ice cave. She could not help but shiver. With an awkward smile, she quickly bowed and said, "Esteemed Lord, I understand. I was just joking with you. Please don't take it to heart. You're a smart person. I don't want to explain too much. Don't worry, I'll help you get into the top 3 of the alchemist competition. However, I'll participate in it under your name. There's still some time before the competition. I'll nurture your alchemy skills. As long as you can control the fire origin, alchemy will be as easy as waving your hand. At most, it'll be a matter of experience. With me around, this won't be a problem for a smart person like you," Yi Qinghan said calmly. Qin Xuanxuan's eyes shrunk. She shook her head and said, "Your understanding of the fire origin has already reached the peak. How can I reach your level in such a short time?" Yi Qinghan smiled confidently and said, "If I were to teach an ordinary person and let her comprehend the fire origin to my level, many people would not be able to do it in their lifetime. However, for you, who is at the 6th level of the Sector Lord realm, it won't be too difficult. This is because your wisdom is unprecedented." Qin Xianxian was so excited that she almost danced. To be able to gain the recognition of a monster like Yi Qinghan, even if she was a super genius, she should be honored. "Let's go home. We'll start tonight." Qin Xianxian pulled Yi Qinghan's sleeves and said excitedly. Yi Qinghan immediately shook her off and maintained a certain distance. "Promise me that other than me, you won't tell anyone about my identity. This includes your parents and the city lord, Qin Fenghua. As for Bai Yuran's departure, we'll use the same excuse. We'll say that she went out to travel." Yi Qinghan stared at Qin Xianxian and reminded her, "Don't worry. Even if the emperor asks me, I'll say that you're senior Yang. I don't know Yi cough cough." Qin Xianxian promised. Yi Qinghan was finally relieved. He brought Qin Xianxian back to the city lord's manor and went straight to the bamboo garden. Chapter 1720. Moonlight shrouded the bamboo garden of the Qin clan. Yi Qinghan condensed the yin and yang qi of heaven and earth, restoring his face to its original state. His vigorous face, coupled with a hint of weathering, made him look even more dignified. Back then, he could have been considered young, but now, he was already middle-aged. Qin Xianxian looked at Yi Qinghan and her heart raced. She was so arrogant that even her own brother could not stand her, let alone the younger generation of Fire Beacon City. However, when she looked at Yi Qinghan, she did not dare to look at him a second time. It was like first love. She could not even lift her head in front of him. Hu, dong, 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 dong. Qin Xuanxuan's breathing quickened and her heart raced. She lowered her head and clasped her hands on her battle robe. Yi Qinghan glanced at her and said coldly, "Wake up. You don't have much time. In 3 months you must reach the level of a divine alchemist. I can't help Fire Beacon City in the war. Otherwise, those people will definitely recognize me. Qin Xianxian seemed to have woken up from a dream. Her face was flushed red and her tender skin was radiating charm. Yi Qinghan grunted and grabbed Qin Xuanxuan's hand. He reminded her in a low voice, "Guard your heart and comprehend the origin of the divine fire. If you want to control the origin of fire, you must first understand that fire is an extreme yang object. It will burn at the end of yang and everything will be destroyed." Yi Qinghan's voice was low and mighty, but it could not penetrate the bamboo garden. Outside the bamboo garden, there was a faint divine light that isolated everything. Although Qin Fenghan wanted to observe Yi Qinghan, he could not do so at this moment. No matter what, Qin Xianxian was a man with high intelligence. His composure was terrifyingly strong. When Yi Qinghan grabbed his hand, he fell into an epiphany. He sensed the flow of fire Upanishad in Yi Qinghan's sea of consciousness. His sea of consciousness became clear as he absorbed the true meaning of fire Upanishad. The extreme yang attribute in her body was surging and communicating with the extreme yang object in the heaven and earth. Fire. In the middle of the night, Qin Xianxian subconsciously waved her hand and whispered. Her slender fingers grabbed and flames appeared out of nowhere. Although the temperature was low, it was already a miracle. Fire also has grades. First, it depends on how much you have comprehended the origin of fire. Then, it depends on how much your body can withstand. Based on your current situation, the 14th grade divine fire is your limit. However, a 14th grade fire is enough to support you to become a divine alchemist, Yi Qinghan explained. Rank 14 divine fire. But fire. But Qinghan. I will slowly raise the extreme yang attribute in your body. It may be easy in the early stages, but in the later stages it will be difficult. Qin Xianxian nodded vigorously and said excitedly, "Master, don't worry. 3 months is enough for me." Hua hua. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and controlled the divine fire. It was a 5th grade divine fire. It attached itself to Qin Xuanxuan's arm and burned her skin, allowing her to comprehend the origin of fire. A 5th grade divine fire couldn't burn the body of a realm lord. Qin Xianxian didn't feel any pain. Therefore, her comprehension was very fast. 6th grade, 7th grade. In a night, Yi Qinghan adjusted the grade of the divine fire to the 10th grade. The burning of a 10th grade divine fire made Qin Xuanxuan's face contort. Tears streamed down her face. This was unbearable. She couldn't use any divine power to defend herself. She could only rely on her comprehension of the origin of fire to adjust. Endure it. It will get more and more painful. The flames after reaching the 13th grade will burn you alive. If you can't comprehend it in time, you won't even be able to control your life and death, let alone becoming a divine alchemist. How can you control the limits of fire? Yi Qinghan scolded sternly. Qin Xuanxuan's body trembled violently. Her chest heaved up and down. Her arm was grabbed by Yi Qinghan and she couldn't retract it. Her bones were twisted. There was a shortcut to becoming a divine alchemist quickly. However, no one could withstand it. Even if they had the willpower, they might not have the wisdom to do it. I need to calm down. Qin Xianxian gritted her teeth and growled. Her chaotic soul was slowly calming down. With Yi Qinghan's comforting, she finally calmed down and started to comprehend the 10th grade divine fire. The flame turned from yellow to red. It was like dripping blood. It was beautiful, but it could take one's life. Slowly, the flame burned brighter and brighter. It engulfed the two of them. The fire soared into the sky, but it couldn't destroy anything. Everything was under Yi Qinghan's control. Only Qin Xianxian was enduring extreme pain. Qin Xianxian didn't leave the bamboo garden for the whole night. Qin Feng frowned. A big family was very particular about family values. If this kind of thing were to spread, what would happen? Who would dare to marry Qin Xianxian? Qin Feng couldn't see through the layer of formation. The space-time was distorted and the color had changed. It was right in front of him, but he couldn't see through it. This surprised him and made him more curious about Yi Qinghan's background. Beside the bamboo gardens lake, Yi Qinghan brought Qin Xianxian, who was in an epiphany, to the surface of the water. The flame under their feet merged with the water of the stream. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan moved his feet and brought Qin Xuanxuan's long legs to the surface of the water. Half of it was water and the other half was fire. As the water and fire intertwined, the temperature of the flame rose. Although Qin Xuanxuan's eyes were closed, he was very clear about what was happening in the outside world. Sword! Yi Qinghan said in a deep voice. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan waved his hand and condensed the divine fire into a sharp sword. It was lifelike and looked like a heavenly sword. Flames rose around it and it was exceptionally beautiful. It looked like a natural sculpture. Blade. The fire sword moved according to Yi Qinghan's will. It slowly twisted and turned into a 7-foot heavy blade. Whoosh! The blade slashed towards the distance. The sound of space being torn apart reverberated far away. Everywhere it passed, the air would burn and space would distort. Its destructive power was no weaker than an ordinary divine weapon. Do you understand now? Fire is a part of a divine alchemist's body. You can do whatever you want with it. Yi Qinghan's 7-foot flame in his right hand dissipated. He stared at Qin Xianxian and his voice boomed like a subwoofer. It lingered in her ears for a long time. Qin Xianxian took a deep breath. His fingertips were trembling. His entire right arm was almost numb. However, he remembered the familiar fire origin in his heart. I understand now. Qin Xianxian nodded and said. Yi Qinghan looked at Qin Xuanxuan's confident expression and couldn't help but smile. The first 10 grades are very simple, especially for a realm lord like you. It can't be any easier. However, the 11th grade divine flame can threaten your life as long as you don't defend yourself. Let alone one day, even if you spend 5 days, you won't be able to fully comprehend it, let alone use it for yourself. You have to be mentally prepared. Qin Xianxian looked at Yi Qinghan and grinned. It was ugly and painful. However, he still said confidently, as long as it's something you teach me, I will be able to learn it no matter how dangerous it is. Yi Qinghan shrugged and waved his hand to put on his bamboo hat, dispersing the array. He said, Go back and properly comprehend the fruits of tonight's labor. Fully comprehend them, and come to my bamboo garden again at night. Chapter 1721. Yi Qinghan cultivated during the day and taught Qin Xianxian at night. Qin Fenghua lost interest after observing for half a month. When Qin Xianxian told Qin Fenghua that Yi Qinghan taught her the origin of fire, Qin Fenghua stopped teaching her. 2 months later, Qin Xuanxuan's wisdom came into play. She had fully grasped the mysteries of the 13th grade divine fire. She could conjure fire with a wave of her hand and condense it into a sword. She was already capable of fighting. However, she was still a long way from becoming a divine pill master. The final step was a world of difference. However, there was no time to waste. The pill master competition would be held at the Eternal Sword Sacred Grounds Holy City. However, the teleportation formation couldn't send people to the Holy City. It could only be sent to Lookout City. Hence, it was also called Liao City. Liao City was about a month's journey from the Holy City. This was to prevent the war from escalating and directly attacking the Holy City. The layout of the city and the teleportation formation were carefully thought out. On this day, Qin Fenghua found Qin Xianxian and Yi Qinghan. He smiled and said, Mr. Yang, the Pill Master competition will be held next month. We can depart now. Please forgive us for the difficult journey. Yi Qinghan looked at Qin Xianxian helplessly. They were always short on time. Qin Xianxian was smart and diligent. She had not only comprehended the 13th grade divine fire, but also learned some alchemy technique. She had memorized nearly 1,000 13th grade pill recipes. She had also memorized the recipes of the 14th grade boundary condensing pill and the 14th grade soul amassing pill. However, she couldn't concoct a 14th grade divine pill. Her cauldron would even explode if she tried. Try harder on the journey. There's only one step left. It might be more difficult, Yi Qinghan said in a low voice. Qin Xuanxuan's face was filled with excitement. She had never felt such a sense of accomplishment. She wanted to comprehend the 14th grade divine fire. Not only did she want to become a divine pill master, but she also wanted to prove to Yi Qinghan that she was the best among women. Her wisdom was also worthy of him. Qin Xianxian didn't follow them. She stayed behind to guard Fire Beacon City. Qin Xianxian no longer coveted Yi Qinghan's control over Fire Beacon City. Her goal had changed. Now, she wanted to steal Yi Qinghan's arrogant heart and make herself his one and only. The three of them used the teleportation array to distort space and time. In just half a day, they arrived outside the city gate of Liao City. Liao City stood tall. Standing on the observation deck, one could control the endless space. One could even see the fireworks in the sky above Liao City. Yi Qinghan wore a bamboo hat and carried the dark gold rod on his back, but it was wrapped in oilcloth. Qin Fenggo didn't know that it was a divine weapon used by a terrifying half-step eternal sovereign. At that time, the half-step eternal sovereign, Yi Qinghan, who loved excitement, would have taken away his divine weapon. Qin Fenggo was afraid that he wouldn't have intervened in that battle. Qin Fenghua said, "You guys wait for me outside the city. I will go to the city and buy a first-class carriage. You guys can cultivate in the carriage while I drive." For the sake of having a godly alchemist in his family, Qin Fenghua had already given it his all. What was face to him? What was a coachman worth? A divine alchemist could preserve the glory of a family for countless years. Even if he reached the end of his life, he could still carry on his will. The Fire Beacon City would not change its name. Yi Qinghan and Qin Xianxian stood not far from the city. Taking advantage of the free time, he passed on his experience of comprehending a level 14 divine fire to Qin Xianxian. Hua! Yi Qinghan's big hand wrapped around Qin Xuanxuan's jade-like hand. The flame in his hand wrapped around Qin Xuanxuan's arm. Qin Xianxian felt as if she had been struck by lightning. She tried to shake off Yi Qinghan's hand, but that pair of big hands held her tightly. She couldn't break free and could only let the level 14 divine fire burn her. Her entire body was almost ignited. "It hurts. I'm going to die." Qin Xuanxuan's face turned ferocious. Her body twisted, and her soul almost disappeared in an instant. "This is the lowest temperature of a level 14 divine fire. Bear with it. I will slowly raise the temperature until you get used to it." Yi Qinghan's voice became gentle. It was indeed terrifying to let someone who didn't use their divine power to defend themselves come into contact with a level 14 divine fire. Moreover, she was a girl. The flame became transparent, and the surrounding heat waves rolled away. An invisible pressure enveloped an area of 10 meters. Many people subconsciously distanced themselves from the two. Qin Xianxian couldn't bear the pain. She pounced on Yi Qinghan and bit his arm. Yi Qinghan frowned. He didn't dare to use his divine power to defend himself. Otherwise, he would break her sharp teeth. Qin Xuanxuan's tears wet her bamboo hat. She slowly got used to the lowest temperature and finally began to comprehend the mysteries of the divine fire. Not long after, Qin Fenghua drove a horse carriage out of the city. There were two giant beasts driving the carriage. The carriage was very big. It was big enough for Yi Qinghan and Qin Xianxian to cultivate and comprehend the divine fire. "Get in. We will rush to Sword Path Saint City as soon as possible. You will have enough time to comprehend the level 14 divine fire." Qin Fenghua glanced at Yi Qinghan's hand. He didn't stop his impolite action. Yi Qinghan withdrew the heat. The flames only wrapped around the two's hands. Shua! Yi Qinghan stepped onto the carriage and carried Qin Xianxian inside. The interior of the carriage was very spacious. It was as big as a room. It had its own soundproof enchantment and defensive array. A peak attack from a Sector Lord Level 7 expert might not be able to break through the defenses. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and closed the door. He sealed the windows and activated the defensive array. The carriage moved quickly as if it was moving on flat ground. It rushed into the distance at lightning speed. In the vast Sword Path Eternal World, there were many official roads. Every road led to Saint City. It was as prosperous as the Holy Empire of Middle-earth. Countless people yearned to go there. However, not everyone had the right to live there. The blue sky and white jade seemed to be able to touch the rolling clouds with a wave of one's hand. They headed north and passed through the Sword Forest mountain range. They then turned east and traveled for 20 days to reach Saint City. Qin Fenghua couldn't be more familiar with this road. He waved his whip and rushed north. Countless mountains in the Sword Forest mountain range were like stone swords piercing into the clouds. Mountains that were hundreds of meters tall could be seen everywhere. There were steep cliffs that couldn't be climbed. Some of the cliffs were deep and the official roads were winding like dragons. Yi Qinghan almost hugged Qin Xianxian in his arms. He wanted to prevent her from struggling and interrupting her comprehension. Qin Xianxian wriggled her snake-like waist. Her soft and boneless skin could be clearly felt through her clothes. The fragrance of her virginity carried an endless amount of yin energy that could be transmitted into Yi Qinghan's body. Yi Qinghan's mind trembled. He almost lost control. He opened his eyes and took a deep breath. He withdrew his evil thoughts. Don't move. Otherwise, I won't be able to take it. Yi Qinghan reminded her in a muffled voice. Qin Xianxian was in so much pain that she couldn't control herself. When she heard Yi Qinghan's words, her pain was alleviated. After all, they were intimate every day. However, he didn't have any desire. She was starting to doubt her own charm. She felt the heat from Yi Qinghan below her. Instead of being shy, she was excited. However, she didn't dare to move anymore. At this moment, the horse carriage came to a sudden stop. Yi Qinghan jerked forward, and the scorching hot divine rod almost shattered his divine robe. Qin Xuanxuan's left hand pushed against the door and bounced back. He sat down on Yi Qinghan's waist, completely breaking the pillar that supported the sky. This time, it wasn't Qin Xianxian who was in pain. It was Yi Qinghan. Chapter 1722. Humph! Yi Qinghan groaned as he held on to Qin Xuanxuan's small waist. He was in so much pain that he was sweating profusely. His manhood was almost destroyed. Sorry. I didn't do it on purpose. Qin Xianxian awkwardly stretched out her hand to touch that stick, but she stopped in front of her face. Yi Qinghan's mouth twitched. If this stick was destroyed, there wouldn't be any fun in this life. Hua! Yi Qinghan waved his hand to disperse the flames and opened the window. He frowned and asked, "Old Qin, what's the matter? Why did you suddenly stop?" Just at this moment, many people rushed over from afar. "Quick, retreat. There's a mysterious flame spreading in front. Even Sector Lord Level 5 experts would be burned to ashes if they touched it." A hurried voice rang out, causing everyone to retreat faster and faster. Old Qin was also unhappy, but the road ahead was blocked. Who knew how many people were retreating and couldn't move forward at all? Yi Qinghan opened the car door and retracted the flames after adjusting his breathing. He walked out and grabbed a supreme god with a decent cultivation. What mysterious flame! It instantly burned a Sector Lord Level 5 expert to death. Did you see it with your own eyes? No. I didn't see it. I heard that the flame is purple. That supreme god hurriedly replied. Bullshit. I heard that it's black. That Sector Lord Level 5 expert would be burned to ashes if he touched it. Not even his bones would be left. At this moment, A Sector Lord level expert rushed over from the front. He was a Sector Lord level 2 expert and had decent cultivation. However, from his tone, he must have been scared off before he saw the flame. 3 people could make a tiger. Just by scaring them, they could scare off many people. Black flame? Yi Qinghan let go of that supreme god and muttered to himself. He had already controlled a level 14 god flame, but he had never heard of a black flame. Don't listen to their nonsense. I've lived for so long and have never heard of any black flame. Besides, the Alchemy Master competition is just around the corner. Who knows how many alchemists and divine alchemists will be participating in the competition? There are definitely more than 30 to 50 alchemists on this path. They should be happy to see the flames. Why would they be scared away? Qin Fenghua angrily kicked away a powerhouse who was blocking the carriage's path. He coldly reprimanded, "Get out of my way, all of you!" Whoosh! Suddenly, a blood-curdling scream rang out from the Sword Forest mountain range. Purple River City's alchemist Sway has been burned to death. An exceptionally mournful voice rang out, causing those panicking people to panic even more and almost fall off the cliff. The carriage blocked the entrance of the Sword Forest mountain range, making it even harder for the pedestrians to retreat. Yi Qinghan and Qin Fenggo were in disbelief. They wanted to drive through the crowd, but they could not move forward. However, not long after, another blood-curdling scream rang out, causing the terrified crowd to panic even more. Many people were pushed off the cliff, falling to their death. The divine alchemist of the Yaowang Mountain has been burned to death. Run! Flames are seeping out from a cave. This sentence caused Yi Qinghan's pupils to shrink. Even a divine alchemist was burned to death. What kind of flame was that? Was it a 5th-grade divine flame? Whoosh! Yi Qinghan stepped on the air, stepping on the heads of the crowd as he rushed towards the Sword Forest mountain range. More and more people were rushing backwards, and it was extremely crowded. There were constantly experts being forcefully blasted off the cliff. At a bend, about 1,000 meters east, there was a mountain tunnel. There was a cave in the sky, and the cave was emitting blue flames. The rocks were constantly turning into liquid, sealing the entire tunnel. The blue flames fell down the tunnel, and it would definitely ignite if touched. Some divine alchemists were nearby and wanted to collect some of the flames, but they all failed. Yi Qinghan looked at the beautiful blue flames and was astonished. The divine bird also stretched its head out to take a look, but it had never seen such flames before. "It doesn't seem to have any temperature," the divine bird said in astonishment. Yi Qinghan nodded. He also didn't feel any high temperature. This flame was actually able to burn a 5th-level Sector Lord expert to death, and even a divine alchemist. It was simply unimaginable. Just as Yi Qinghan was wondering, another god alchemist boldly walked towards the blue flames with a glass jade bottle in his hand. He reached out his hand to collect a drop of flame, but the jade bottle was directly melted and the blue flames smashed onto his feet. Before he could react, the blue flames instantly burned and swallowed him whole. The mournful scream caused everyone's hair to stand on end. The divine bird trembled and directly entered Yi Qinghan's blood and qi, turning into a trace of imprint and never coming out again. CSI. The surrounding divine alchemists took in a cold breath and looked at the blue flames with fear. They didn't dare to test it anymore and quickly retreated. Not far from the corner, they saw Yi Qinghan wearing a conical bamboo hat and black clothes. They reminded him coldly, "The path ahead has already been melted. We divine alchemists can't do anything to that flame. You better not send yourself to death." After saying that, the 6 divine alchemists and a few high-level divine alchemists left the place. After they retreated, Yi Qinghan stepped towards the blue flames. His eyes flashed with light, and he was full of confidence. His physical body had been tempered thousands of times, and his control over the divine fire had surpassed the divine alchemists. He was close to the divine alchemist level. He didn't believe that this beautiful blue flame would be able to burn him into nothingness. Stepping to the side of the karst cave, Yi Qinghan looked back and saw that there was no one else around. He rolled up the oilcloth and extended the dark gold rod towards the flames. The dark gold rod shot out runes in all directions, and a divine radiance shot out, extinguishing the blue flames. However, the terrifying heat emitted from the dark gold rod almost made him let go of it. Yi Qinghan breathed a sigh of relief. Since this flame couldn't hurt the dark gold rod, it meant that this flame wasn't heaven-defying. At least, it couldn't damage a half-step eternal divine artifact. However, he couldn't underestimate it either. If a half-step eternal expert accidentally came into contact with this blue flame, it would probably cause them to curse in pain. As for Liang Zhengtai, Mu Zun, Buddha Incinerate, and the others, once they were enveloped by the flame, they would most likely die a tragic death. Hey, I'm warning you. Don't take risks. The divine bird felt Yi Qinghan's vitality burning and quickly rushed out to warn him. This is an unknown flame. As long as I can control it, Mu Zun and the others will no longer be a threat. It's worth the risk, Yi Qinghan said with certainty. The divine bird cursed anxiously, but it couldn't persuade Yi Qinghan. It could only curse, F***ck. You're risking your life. If your body can't withstand it, you'll really die. There's no chance. Yi Qinghan shook his head confidently and said, This blue flame can't destroy the dark gold rod, so it certainly can't destroy me. At most, it can injure me. It's fine. After saying that, Yi Qinghan reached out and grabbed a wisp of blue flame. The flame instantly spread to his body and directly swallowed him. The divine bird screamed and directly shrank into Yi Qinghan's vitality. Yi Qinghan groaned and screamed. The flesh and blood of his 5 fingers were instantly incinerated, but he forcibly kept it out of his body. The blue flame was held in his palm, and the burning sensation directly burned his soul, almost causing his soul to scatter. You're crazy. If others can't kill you, you'll die because of your own actions. The divine bird could feel the evil chi burning everything in his vitality, but it didn't dare to look, and could only curse angrily. Chapter 1723. Yi Qinghan remained calm despite the bird's curses. He put his palms together and controlled the blue demonic fire. Whoosh! The flames became even more vigorous after encountering the divine power, burning everything. Yi Qinghan's divine robes were reduced to fine powder and scattered with the cold wind. Only his flesh and blood remained like a peerless divine weapon. The flames burned his body, but a part of the flames turned into battle robes and divine armor. Whoosh! The record of Yin Yang turned into armor and attached itself to the golden body, protecting the vital parts of the body. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan's skin glowed brightly and his vitality became stronger. The bird also noticed this and stopped cursing. The blue demonic fire seemed to be alive and had its own rules. It was either destroy or be destroyed. Its rules were constantly changing and there was no way to understand it. Boom! Yi Qinghan stepped into the karst cave and allowed the blue demonic fire to burn his golden body. However, the record of Yin Yang could withstand the demonic fire. His golden body was enveloped by the 8 trigrams yin-yang diagram, and only his arms could touch the fire. The dark gold rod pierced the ground and golden light shone everywhere. At this moment, Qin Fenghua drove the carriage through the crowd and forced its way to a corner. He got off the carriage with Qin Xianxian and approached the blue demonic flames. They discovered that the cave was deep and blue. They could clearly see Yi Qinghan's blurry figure and a rod-shaped object that was emitting golden light. They were shocked. Who is this person? The fire can burn a divine alchemist to death, but he can stand there without moving. He must be carrying that golden rod on his back. How come I don't remember such a person? Qin Fenghua was shocked. His eyes were wide open. He rarely paid attention to wanted posters, so he didn't know who Yi Qinghan was. Even if he had heard of him, he wouldn't have thought of him. Qin Xianxian didn't dare to say more. She didn't know how terrifying Yi Qinghan was, but she was sure that if Yi Qinghan fought to the death, Qin Fenghua might not win. Grandpa, who cares who he is? He is at least my master in name now. Those who fought for us are our own people. If we keep pestering him about his identity, we might anger him. Qin Xianxian reminded him faintly. Qin Fenghua thought for a while and felt that it made sense. He nodded and said, "You're right. This person's combat strength should be on par with mine. He's also a divine alchemist. I should be on good terms with him. Even when my time comes, I can rest assured." "Grandpa, you'll be fine. I've discussed this with Senior Yang. As long as we can find a divine herb that can control yin and yang, plus some supplementary materials for the longevity pill, it won't be impossible for him to create a longevity pill with his strength. Once the longevity pill is created, I'll split it 50-50 with him. When the time comes, the first pill will be given to you. You're the god of Fire Beacon City. As long as Fire Beacon City doesn't fall, you won't fall," Qin Xianxian said coquettishly. Qin Fenghua laughed. Although his time was coming, he wasn't sad at all. He patted Qin Xuanxuan's head and said, "If your brother was as smart and eloquent as you, I'd be relieved to hand Fire Beacon City over to him. Unfortunately, you're a girl. You'll get married eventually." Qin Xianxian snorted and said proudly, "I'm not interested in Fire Beacon City now. Don't worry about me seizing power." After saying that, Qin Xianxian stared at the back of the god of war in the blue hole. Her eyes were filled with admiration and admiration. Qin Fenghua looked at Qin Xuanxuan's eyes and smiled without saying anything. However, he was a little cautious. If his favorite granddaughter was going to get married, he would at least know who the other party was. However, he knew nothing about Yi Qinghan. How could he entrust him to someone else so easily? "Grandpa, I can't be wrong. He'll definitely be a great hero. He's still young. I believe that I'll be able to see him become an unparalleled immortal in my lifetime," Qin Xianxian said firmly. Qin Fenghua nodded. He focused his eyes and stared at Yi Qinghan's back. He fell into deep thought. Yi Qinghan began to devour the blue demonic fire. He wanted to use it for himself. He tried to forcefully devour it several times but failed. His flesh and blood almost melted. The pain was so excruciating that his soul felt like it was being torn apart. If it weren't for his extraordinary willpower, he would have been annihilated in the flames. "Humph!" A muffled groan came out of the karst cave. The sound contained endless pain and helplessness. In just tens of thousands of years, he had walked down a path that took others a few eras to walk down. However, the pain he endured was probably something that Mu Zun and the others had never experienced in their entire lives. Boom! Whoosh! Yi Qinghan's 5 fingers turned into sharp claws and pierced through the walls of the karst cave. He realized that the stones here were as hard as a boundary artifact. However, they couldn't withstand the burning of the flames. This kind of divine fire was definitely the best fire to forge a transcendence artifact. The stones had already melted from the flames. Yi Qinghan's sharp claws easily pierced through them. Qin Fenghua was stunned. He couldn't imagine how strong Yi Qinghan's body was to be able to do this. Boundless heaven and earth, yin and yang borrowing power. Within the domain, I am the master. Yi Qinghan grabbed the blue demonic fire with his right hand. His eyes turned blue. His skin turned blue. Even his bones turned blue. The order of his body had been tempered, refined, and reconstructed countless times. It became even stronger. It wasn't a boundary artifact. It was more like a boundary artifact. One punch was enough to break a mid-grade boundary artifact. Devour! Yi Qinghan gradually controlled the order of the blue demonic fire. He forcefully devoured the blue demonic fire. Whoosh! 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 The blue demonic fire frantically fled into the depths of the karst cave. A terrifying sound came from the cave. It was as if this was the real hell. However, Yi Qinghan still intercepted a portion of the blue demonic fire. He forcefully absorbed it into his body and made it a part of him. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan's body and surroundings were filled with blue flames. However, they weren't ownerless. They were flames that were under his control. He turned everything within a few meters of him into flames. He covered his face and the shape of the dark gold rod. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan withdrew from the karst cave. He hid the dark gold rod behind his back and quickly stepped into the carriage. However, the flames were under his control. They didn't hurt the items in the carriage. Once he entered the carriage, Yi Qinghan immediately dispersed the flames. He curled up in the carriage and bit the dark gold rod in pain. He didn't want to make a sound. At this moment, Qin Xianxian stepped into the carriage and closed the door. He activated the array and flipped Yi Qinghan over. He discovered that his eyes had turned completely blue. However, his appearance hadn't changed much. At this moment, his face was contorted. It seemed that he was in extreme pain. "Hurry up!" Yi Qinghan's voice was hoarse as he spoke in a low voice. Qin Feng stared at the carriage door. He wanted to open it and see who Yi Qinghan was. He wanted to see what kind of divine weapon that rod was. However, he was intimidated by the cold and emotionless voice. He had no choice but to give up and drive the carriage through the tunnel. There were no more blue demonic fire in the tunnel. It was unobstructed. Qin Xianxian held Yi Qinghan's large hand. At this moment, he could still feel Yi Qinghan's frantic heartbeat and the aura of death. He couldn't help but feel shocked. He hurriedly asked, "Master, have you not subdued those blue flames yet?" Yi Qinghan opened his eyes slightly. They were filled with exhaustion. He gripped Qin Xuanxuan's wrist tightly and said painfully, "No. Don't worry about me. Focus on comprehending the level 14 divine fire. There's only a month left. I'm afraid I can't help you with anything else." Chapter 1724. Yi Qinghan was in so much pain that he could not speak. He almost broke Qin Xuanxuan's wrist, but in the end, he let go. It was clear that his will would not be influenced by external things. Seeing Yi Qinghan in such pain and despair, Qin Xianxian felt an indescribable pain in his heart. The beast stepped across the Sword Forest mountain range as if it was flying. It almost flew into the sky and chased after the stars and moon at lightning speed. It did not sleep or rest. After traveling for more than half a month and 2/3 of the journey, the beast could not take it anymore and had to stop for a while. There were 3 realm lords and 2 terrifying existences in Yi Qinghan and Qin Fenghua. They did not have to worry about being stopped by bandits. Moreover, this was already the hinterland of the human race. It was not too dangerous. Therefore, Qin Fenghua stopped the carriage in a valley and found a place to sit down and start a fire. Yi Qinghan did not come down from the carriage. Instead, he sat cross-legged in the carriage and tried to comprehend the blue demonic fire in his body. Although he could hide it in his body, he could not subdue it. It was filled with destruction and hostility. It almost penetrated Yi Qinghan's body. The surface of his body was emitting blue light. At this moment, he did not even look like a human. Yi Qinghan formed a seal with his palms. His 2 middle fingers overlapped and pressed on his forehead. He was trying his best to suppress the blue demonic fire. His internal organs were almost cooked. The divine bird was the first to be unable to bear it. It ran out directly, followed by the multicolored snake, the star-twining vine, and the other divine pet. However, the little golden crow was eagerly devouring the extreme yang fire elements in Yi Qinghan's body. It could even slowly devour the terrifying blue flame demon fire. Moreover, the blue flame demon fire couldn't cause any substantial harm to it. If it was not for the little golden crow helping to absorb the essence of the blue demonic fire that was scattered all over Yi Qinghan's body, he probably would have died even if he had 9 lives. The divine bird was rolling around in the carriage. It wanted to rush out and take a stroll. However, Qin Fenghua was outside and staring at the carriage. It did not have the chance to go out. "I'm going crazy," the divine bird sighed. It lay on the back of the god-devourer eagle and lazily flapped its wings. "Which one of you can lure that old thing away? I'll go find some treasures for you guys," the divine bird said wretchedly. But no one was a fool. Could that old thing outside be an ordinary person? Once they went out, they would be exposed. Yi Qinghan's identity would also be exposed. Therefore, the rainbow snake and the other divine pets shook their heads and rejected the divine bird's suggestion. However, the divine bird kept chattering beside Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan couldn't focus, so he tore open the window and slapped the divine bird out. Whoosh, bang! Yi Qinghan had used quite a bit of strength to fling him out of the valley. His speed was so fast that even Qin Fenggo could only see a flash of white light. Yi Qinghan looked in the direction where the divine bird had crashed. In the end, he couldn't bear to see it go. In the end, he tossed the rainbow snake out as well. Then, he once again immersed himself in comprehending the blue flame demon fire. The divine bird was like a runaway wild horse. When it saw the rainbow snake being thrown out, it immediately laughed at its misfortune. "Idiot, I can fly. You fell hard, didn't you?" The rainbow snake stared at the divine bird angrily. It opened its bloody mouth and revealed its soul-stealing fangs. Unfortunately, the divine bird wasn't afraid. It jumped directly onto the rainbow snake's head. With a flap of its wings, it said in an imposing manner, "Brother, let's go. 3,000 meters southwest, there seems to be treasure." Whoosh, hiss hiss hiss. The rainbow snake didn't want to bother with the divine bird and rushed southwest with it. There was an ancient forest in the southwest. A few mountains crisscrossed and were quite majestic. The spiritual energy inside was also very dense. However, there were more ferocious beasts and poisonous creatures. Very few people went deeper. Only a few adventurers were searching for some spiritual herbs in the periphery. There were people setting up camp in every valley. The rainbow snake avoided everyone's sight like an ordinary poisonous snake. The divine bird broke a lush branch from somewhere and covered itself with it. It was considered a disguise. Continue forward. After passing through this valley, there will definitely be treasures on the mountain in front. The divine bird's eyes flickered as it stared at a mountain several hundred meters tall. The mountain was covered in countless short thorns. The cliffs were steep and not easy to climb. Poisonous snakes and poisonous creatures were everywhere. Even if a sector lord was bitten, he would lose half his life if he didn't find the antidote in a short period of time. The rainbow snake quickly climbed up the mountain. The thorns and poisonous creatures were no obstacle to it. Even poisonous snakes had to take a detour when they saw it. When it was halfway up the mountain, the divine bird's claw had already torn the branch apart. It simply threw it aside and kept swallowing with its mouth dripping with saliva. Hee, there really are treasures. The grade is not low. The divine bird excitedly said to itself. At the top of the mountain, not even a person could stand on it. A light blue plant was swaying in the wind. At this moment, it was blooming with flowers. The outside of the flower was light blue, but the inside was dark blue. It was incomparably beautiful. The fat and tender leaves contained endless vitality. There were over 10 leaves and each of them was priceless. However, the divine bird didn't know what it was regretting. But if the sacred pill masters of Eternal World were here, they would definitely be very excited and happy. This was because this divine medicine was called Sky Purifying Evil Flame Flower. It was the most poisonous item in the world. Don't be fooled by its beautiful appearance. Just a single leaf could kill someone. The sky-purifying evil flame flower wasn't just a poison. It was also an essential ingredient for the longevity pill. It could kill people and also save people. Roar! Before the divine bird could say anything, the multicolored snake opened its mouth and was about to swallow the sky-purifying demonic flame flower. After all, it was also a poisonous creature, and it liked poisonous divine medicines. Moreover, this sky-purifying demonic flame flower was a top-grade item naturally born in the world. If it ate it, it would evolve and become an existence like Yi Qinghan. "Pah!" The divine bird fiercely swung its claw and said with a look of disdain, "Is this thing swallowed raw? What a waste of God's gift! You should give it to Master and let him see what it is. At the very least, you should refine it into a pill. Otherwise, I can't eat it. I can't let you get away with it, right?" The rainbow snake flew into a rage out of humiliation. However, the divine bird still had its prestige. Moreover, it was Yi Qinghan's favorite. Although it was anxious, it didn't dare to challenge the divine bird's prestige. It could only endure the scolding. "Don't be anxious. How can there be no food when you follow boss? Then, I'll give this divine medicine to you. This fleshy plant was given to me by Master. I couldn't bear to eat it, so I'll give you a part. First, you can satisfy your cravings. Let's bring this divine medicine back." The divine bird tore off a quarter of the fleshy plant and threw it to the rainbow snake. Then, it hid the rest. After that, it carefully dug up the soil on the mountain peak and dug out the sky-purifying evil flame flower along with the soil. The sky-purifying evil flame flower shone with a terrifying blue light. It shone so brightly that even the sky changed its color. It was because of this color and the fact that it was at the top of the sky, which made it similar to the color of the sky, allowing it to grow to its current state. However, it still benefited the divine bird, a little treasure hunter. Chapter 1725. The divine bird hid the sky-purifying evil flame flower on the back of the colorful snake. It covered the flower with a large number of leaves to block the blue light, but the spiritual energy could not block it. Whoosh! The colorful snake sped through the night, preparing to return to Yi Qinghan's side. However, the moment they returned to the valley, a figure quietly descended. The divine bird almost fainted when it saw the figure, because it was Mu Zun. Mu Zun's eyes flashed as he stared at the divine bird, the corner of his mouth raised into a sneer. "Feathered beast, I didn't expect to meet you here. It seems that Yi Qinghan is not far from here. I've searched high and low for him, only to find him without any effort." Mu Zun laughed coldly. How could the divine bird and the multicolored snake be Mu Zun's match? The two of them were scared out of their wits, but the divine bird's reaction was very fast. It suddenly soared into the sky and shouted, "Split up and run! I'm a wanted criminal personally wanted by Heavenly Buddha. His target is me. Help me lure this trash away." Whoosh! After the divine bird finished speaking, it turned around and flew into the distance. Whoosh whoosh whoosh! Just as Mu Zun was hesitating about which one to catch, the colorful snake also turned into a stream of light and quickly disappeared into the night. "You old fart, fly up and catch me if you can." The divine bird flew into the sky and turned its head to curse, constantly provoking Mu Zun, trying to fight for a chance for the colorful snake to escape. Mu Zun was furious. He jumped into the sky and his 5 fingers turned into sharp claws. Endless divine power roared and turned into a huge hand that covered the sky to drill into the divine bird. Whoosh! After the divine bird finished cursing, it suddenly rose again and dodged the killing move. It cursed again. "This divine bird gave you a pair of wings, but you didn't have the ability to catch me. You're worse than a feathered beast, you're simply a piece of trash. Why are you still called Mu Zun? Trash Mu is better." Boom! Mu Zun was furious. He did not want to catch it alive at all. He drew his sword and cut through the sky, piercing through the void, and went straight for the divine bird. The divine bird almost fell apart from the impact. Seeing that the colorful snake had already fled far away, it swooped down from the void and went straight for Mu Zun, crossing with the sword Qi. Bang! The divine bird landed on the ground and crouched not far in front of Mu Zun. It was full of wretchedness and flattery as it said in a trembling voice, "Mighty Mu Zun, this lowly one is no match for you. I surrender. Do you want to capture Yi Qinghan? I can lead the way. Right now, he's heavily injured. As long as you sneak closer to me, he won't even have a chance to resist." Mu Zun stretched out his 5 fingers, wanting to pinch this stinking bug to death. But in order to capture Yi Qinghan, he had no choice but to hold back. "Where is he?" Mu Zun asked coldly. "Heh. I'm right here. How far can he be?" The divine bird pointed in the direction of Yi Qinghan and betrayed him without hesitation. Mu Zun raised the corner of his mouth and said disdainfully, "Trash, like you can even betray your master without hesitation. Do you think I can trust you? A wise man submits to circumstances. A fine bird chooses a tree to nest in. Actually, Yi Qinghan is a trash with no background and no strength. I'm just temporarily subservient to him. But now that I've met such a powerful expert like you, isn't it normal for me to want to be your subordinate?" The divine bird said wretchedly. "Humph." Mu Zun snorted. Although he did not like the divine bird, these words were quite effective. "How are his injuries now?" Mu Zun asked in a low voice. "This guy only has a few hundred years left to live. He's just an arrow at the end of its flight. He doesn't dare to fight to the death. If he gets injured again, he'll definitely die. How about I bring you to capture him?" the divine bird suggested flatteringly. But Mu Zun did not believe its words at all. Or rather, he did not fully believe it. If Yi Qinghan was seriously injured, he would definitely believe it. It would be strange if Yi Qinghan was not injured in such a tragic battle. But if he only had a few hundred years left to live, it was a bit exaggerated. What's more, the divine bird wanted to bring him to capture Yi Qinghan. How could he believe it? "Wait a little longer. I still have help," Mu Zun said coldly. The divine bird looked at Mu Zun in an exaggerated manner and said with some suspicion, "Mu Zun, you're not such a stupid person. If you capture Yi Qinghan, wouldn't you split the credit? Wouldn't it be easy to deal with a seriously injured trash? I'm right in your palm. Do you think I can fly out? Don't be so unconfident, okay?" Mu Zun thought about it and agreed. The divine bird was the most afraid of death. It would not use its life as a wager to trick him. Wouldn't that be courting death? The divine bird saw that Mu Zun was hesitating and immediately added fuel to the fire. It puffed out its chest and asked, "Do you think I'm a divine bird that's afraid of death?" Mu Zun immediately nodded and said, "You don't look like one. You're just afraid of death." The divine bird said proudly, "You're really wise. You can see through my nature at a glance. Indeed, I'm very afraid of death. That's why I won't throw my life away for Yi Qinghan." Mu Zun thought about it carefully and believed the divine bird's word. He then brought the divine bird in the direction of Yi Qinghan. At this moment, the rainbow snake had already entered the valley where Yi Qinghan was. When Yi Qinghan saw the rainbow snake return alone, he was shocked. He quickly stood up and picked up the sky purifying evil flame flower on its back. He asked, "Where's the divine bird?" "Hiss! Hiss!" The rainbow snake flicked its tongue and turned into a wisp of imprint that rushed into Yi Qinghan's consciousness. It told Yi Qinghan everything that had happened. Yi Qinghan could not help but look out of the valley. He was sure that the divine bird must have sold him out. He thought to himself, "I can't let Qin Fenghua know my identity." Whoosh! Yi Qinghan put on his bamboo hat. He ignored the stinging pain all over his body and stepped out of the carriage. He said to Qin Fenghua and Qin Xianxian, "I have something to do. I'll be back soon. Just wait for me here." After that, without waiting for Qin Fenghua to nod, Yi Qinghan rushed out of the valley. His consciousness swept forward and soon found the traces of the divine bird and Mu Zun. At this moment, the divine bird was standing on Mu Zun's shoulder, fawning over him in a way that was unprecedented in the past and would never be seen again. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. He carried the dark gold rod and rushed to the vicinity of a spacious cliff. The blue demon fire in his body was burning wildly. Especially after he used his divine power, the temperature of the flames was even higher. Even his bones were about to be melted. Yi Qinghan did not dare to move. He clutched his chest as if thousands of ants were gnawing at his heart. His body was emitting a blue light and he was in extreme pain. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan waved his hand and scattered the insect queen and the insect queen. The insect queen filled the entire valley. Now, he could only rely on the insect queen to kill Mu Zun. Mu Zun had also noticed Yi Qinghan. He could feel that Yi Qinghan couldn't even stand steadily. He reckoned that what the divine bird said was true. Therefore, he sped up and arrived in front of Yi Qinghan in the time it took for an incense stick to burn. Their eyes met, and there was a trace of ruthlessness in each of their eyes. Back then, so many people failed to catch you. Now that I've caught you alone, it seems that I can't run away from the identity of a 9-star bounty hunter, Mu Zun said excitedly. Mu Zun was caught off guard. Looking at Yi Qinghan's miserable appearance, he was wild with joy. Yi Qinghan's face was pale. The blue light was terrifying, especially his eyes, which became somewhat frightening. It seems that you dare to eat and touch anything to heal your injuries. You can't blame others for seeking death. Today, this old man can show filial respect to two supreme eternal sovereigns at the same time. Mu Zun laughed complacently. He waved his hand and grabbed Yi Qinghan. Chapter 1726. Mu Zun reached out his hand to grab Yi Qinghan. He was extremely powerful, but Yi Qinghan tore off his bamboo hat and revealed a sinister smile as he stared at Mu Zun. Whoosh! The divine bird took advantage of Mu Zun's attack and quickly fled to the periphery. He used the mountain as his defense and said flatteringly, "Mu Zun, you can do it." Mu Zun was a little stunned and immediately withdrew his hand from Yi Qinghan. He noticed that something was wrong and carefully observed for a while. He realized that Yi Qinghan was not completely defenseless. "Kid, looking at your situation, you can't even protect yourself, can you? I advise you to be honest and follow me to see the Lord of Hell. You might still have a chance to live." Mu Zun reminded coldly. Yi Qinghan grinned coldly. His blue eyes were filled with disdain and contempt. He whispered, "Mu Zun, why do you have to interfere in this matter? Why do you have to involve yourself in something that has nothing to do with a bounty hunter like you? Do you lack bounty?" "Ha ha, Yi Qinghan, are you really stupid or are you pretending to be stupid? What do bounty hunters rely on to survive? Aren't you just a wanted criminal? Catching a fat sheep like you is not as simple as a bounty. That glory is something that can't be bought with millions of bounties." Mu Zun laughed wildly. His expression suddenly turned cold. He waved his hand and grabbed a stone and threw it at Yi Qinghan. Bang! Yi Qinghan did not defend himself and allowed the stone to hit his body. However, even if he was made of flesh and blood, a stone could not penetrate his body. The stone turned into dust and scattered. Mu Zun thought to himself, if Yi Qinghan really has the strength he had back then, he would definitely not allow this stone to hit him. It seems like it's just as that lowly bird said. He's already an arrow at the end of its flight. After some consideration, Mu Zun decided to immediately take action and suppress him. At this moment Yi Qinghan laughed and said, "Revered Mu, do you really think that I'm that stupid? Do you really think that a divine bird would betray its master for glory? Looks like your IQ isn't high, or else you wouldn't have been tainted by this karma. Let me remind you, if the divine bird betrayed me now, it wouldn't have used the blessed Buddha statue to help me leave. Because of this, it even offended the blessed Buddha temple. You've wandered the Jianghu for so long and you still believe in the divine bird, yet you're so stupid. You're already at death's door and you're still spouting nonsense. You're really reckless. Mu Zun immediately took a step back. His eyes shone brightly as he scanned the surroundings. However, he didn't find anyone lying in ambush. He couldn't help but mock. Everyone in this great world wants to beat you up, but no one will help you. If I have one foot in the gates of hell, then what about you? I am the one who's going to send you to the gates of hell. Yi Qinghan's body was slightly bent as he gripped the dark gold rod tightly and assumed an offensive posture. You're just bluffing. I'll send you on your way. Mu Zun flew into a rage out of humiliation. He once again channeled his divine power to control the surroundings, bringing the entire valley into his domain. He wanted to control Yi Qinghan's life and death. However, Yi Qinghan laughed loudly. Mu Zun, look at your legs. I told you your IQ wasn't high enough, but you didn't believe me. A bird lured you here and walked right into a trap. Only you would do such a thing. Mu Zun suspiciously pulled down his trousers, only to discover that everything below his knees had turned black. He couldn't help but be shocked. You've channeled your energy several times. The insect queen has already seeped into your heart through your blood. You still don't feel it? Yi Qinghan asked loudly. Mu Zun's expression finally changed. He growled, "What kind of venomous insect is this?" It's called the insect queen mother. I don't know what rank it is, but it feeds on flesh, hearts, and souls. It becomes stronger when it meets a strong opponent. Especially when it meets a body and soul like yours. I'm sure it won't take long, Yi Qinghan replied with a smile. Mu Zun was so shocked that his hands were trembling. Suddenly, he felt a tearing pain in his heart. It was as if thousands of ants were eating away at his heart. No matter how hard he tried to use his divine power to expel them, he couldn't get rid of the venomous insects. Countless venomous insects surrounded the insect queen mother, isolating his divine power. The insect queen's safety was paramount. As long as the insect queen didn't die, its children wouldn't die. Yi Qinghan, take back the venomous insects and we'll forget about our grudges. Mu Zun glared at Yi Qinghan and said. Yi Qinghan sneered and replied disdainfully, "You're really stupid. Since I already have the advantage, I'll just kill you. I've already offended the bounty hunters anyway. It won't hurt to offend them again." You! Mu Zun's face turned pale. He said in fear, "Brother Yi, we have no grudges. Please spare me. I'm still the head of the bounty hunters. As long as you let me go, I can help you escape to the holy empire of Middle-earth and arrange a good identity for you. No matter how long hell and blessed Buddha temple stretch their hands, they won't dare to reach into the holy empire of Middle-earth." Yi Qinghan snorted, "How can this seat believe you?" "I can swear to the heavens, in the name of an eternal," Mu Zun quickly said. Yi Qinghan sneered at Mu Zun and said indifferently, "Look at you begging for mercy. You don't even have the slightest bit of sincerity. You're just going to stand here and talk to me?" Mu Zun was stunned. He immediately knelt down. In order to live, what was dignity? He still had unlimited time to enjoy and squander. "Lord Yi, please spare me. This little one has eyes but can't see gold and jade. I've blasphemed your dignity. Just treat me as a fart that can be blown away by the wind." Mu Zun kowtowed and begged. Yi Qinghan looked at Mu Zun's pitiful appearance and looked at him in disdain. He cultivated to the pinnacle of Sector Lord Level 8, but his personality was like a god bird. Even though god birds were despicable, they had their own personality. They were birds, how could they compare to humans? Hua! Yi Qinghan raised his dark metal rod and pressed it against Mu Zun's head. However, Mu Zun didn't dare to raise his head or resist. Tell me, who was the person who lent me the dark metal rod that day? What power is he from? Yi Qinghan asked seriously. Mu Zun pondered for a while before nodding. Lord Yi, that person is a rogue cultivator called Sky Traversing Tao Sovereign. He usually enjoys playing in the mortal world, but his personality is very overbearing. Once he decides on something, no one dares to touch his bottom line. Yi Qinghan remembered this name. He casually took out an image stone and smiled evilly. I don't believe in O's, I only believe in myself. How about this? Use this image stone to curse 3 people. After that, I'll let you go. Curse? Curse who? Mu Zun asked fearfully. Curse Central Earth Saint Emperor, blessed Buddha temples Heavenly Buddha and the King of Hell. In short, the more disgusting and angry you are, the better. Stand up and curse, you need to look fierce, just like how you curse me. Yi Qinghan's evil aura filled the sky. He placed the image stone down and waited for Mu Zun to speak. However, Mu Zun was so scared that he almost fainted. He dared to curse these 3 people. Even an eternal being wouldn't dare to do so. Right, at the end, say some flattering words to the bounty hunter creator. That will be more interesting. The god bird wretchedly crawled out and said to Mu Zun, Put on. Mu Zun's legs went soft. He looked at Yi Qinghan fearfully and said, Dao friend Yi, let's not get into trouble. If this matter is exposed, we will all die. And we will die very miserably. Chapter 1727. Mu Zun was tortured like a madman by Yi Qinghan. His hair was disheveled, especially when he saw Yi Qinghan keeping the image stone. His eyes were wide open. Be good in the future and don't make me angry. Otherwise, when I'm angry, I won't be able to control myself and will sell the image stone or show it to the entire city. I wonder if you and the bounty hunters will still exist? Yi Qinghan threatened. Mu Zun sat on the ground, paralyzed. He looked at Yi Qinghan in despair. Remember, don't think that you can drag me down with this image stone. Everyone knows that you and I have a grudge. Even if you tell the Middle Earth's Holy Lord that I forced you to do this, will they believe you? Yi Qinghan asked with a smile. Mu Zun shook his head dispiritedly. He wanted to cry but had no tears. Lord Yi, this old man knows his mistake. Please don't let the image stone leak. Many people will die. Mu Zun begged. As long as you listen to me, I won't let the image stone leak even if I die. Yi Qinghan hid the dark gold rod in the oilcloth and carried it on his back again. He said to Mu Zun, I'm going to the Sword Tao Eternal Holy City to participate in the alchemy competition. You will protect me from behind. If anyone suspects my identity, you must help me out. Be my servant for 30,000 years, and I'll return the image stone to you. Mu Zun looked at Yi Qinghan pitifully. How could he refuse? He could only nod his head in agreement. Yi Qinghan turned and left. He quickly returned to the valley. At this moment, Qin Fenggo was waiting for Yi Qinghan. He was afraid that Yi Qinghan would leave alone. When he saw Yi Qinghan return, he heaved a sigh of relief. Mr. Yang, are you done? Qin Fenggo asked with a smile. Yi Qinghan nodded. He then looked at Qin Xianxian, who was sitting cross-legged on the ground, trying to comprehend the origin of fire. He pondered for a moment and said, City Lord Qin, please help her during this period of time. She might have a chance to become a divine pill refiner. Qin Fenghua laughed dryly. He was afraid that Yi Qinghan would not participate in the competition, so he quickly flattered him. We still have to rely on Mr. Yang during crucial moments. She's just a little girl. Even if she becomes a divine pill refiner, it'll be difficult for her to enter the top 10. Yi Qinghan bitterly smiled but didn't explain anything. Not to mention that he couldn't expose his identity. The blue flame demon fire in his body was out of his control, making it impossible for him to help refine pills. Yi Qinghan sighed and entered the carriage to continue subduing the blue flame demon fire. The blue flame demonic flame seemed to have its own life order. The temperature of its heat was restrained. Unless one touched it, one would not be able to feel any heat. However, once one touched it, it could instantly incinerate many substances into nothingness. Little golden crow, cooperate with me and completely suppress the blue flame demonic fire, Yi Qinghan said through gritted teeth. Screech! The little golden crow surged within his bloodline and swallowed the extreme yang substances around his body. Yi Qinghan grabbed at the air and grabbed a leaf of the sky purifying demonic flame flower. It released a blue light that was the same color as the flames. The poison in his body was enough to instantly kill a sector lord, but he swallowed it without hesitation. Hua! The blue flame demonic fire in his body shone even brighter, but it instantly cooled down. The terrifying poison was swallowed by the insect queen mother, and the remaining spirituality was absorbed by Yi Qinghan. Life force filled his limbs and bones, causing his life force to instantly increase by several times. Yi Qinghan sent a strand of divine sense to the blue flame demonic fire, wanting to communicate with it. However, the demonic fire was unwilling to communicate with humans. It pounced on the soul like a ferocious beast, wanting to devour it. Hua! Woo woo woo! The blue flame demonic fire turned into a flood dragon and swooped down, wreaking havoc on Yi Qinghan's flesh. Hua! Yi Qinghan used the purest 14th grade god fire in the world to resist. Although the quality was not as good as the blue flame demonic fire, the endless quantity cooperated with Yi Qinghan and began to counterattack the blue flame demonic fire. Since you're unwilling to be used by me, then I'll forcefully devour you and become one with you. Yi Qinghan gritted his teeth and muttered to himself angrily. Boom boom boom. The dragon blood boiled as if it was burning. His body was so hot that the carriage was about to melt. Xiao! Yi Qinghan left the carriage and sat cross-legged in the valley. Even Qin Fenghan, who was tens of meters away, could feel a heat that could kill a sixth-layer sector lord. Boom boom boom. The rocks and grass below Yi Qinghan withered, and the ripples spread further and further. The ferocious beasts roared uneasily and hid behind Qin Fenghan. Yi Qinghan stretched out his 10 fingers and grabbed the sky. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth gathered and shrouded in light. The vitality in the surroundings was forcefully snatched away. The ancient trees withered instantly and turned into nothingness when the wind blew. Has the wisp of smoke he obtained not been subdued? Qin Fenghan looked at Yi Qinghan in horror and slowly retreated from the valley with Qin Xianxian. There were no more living creatures in the valley, and the entire valley was collapsing. Boom! After Qin Fenghan took the carriage away, the valley turned into a canyon. Even the nearby mountains collapsed and fell into the abyss. Qin Xianxian looked at the flame controlled by Yi Qinghan. His eyes were like torches and he was extremely excited. He seemed to have comprehended something. This is the real 14th grade god fire. It can be controlled by me as I wish. How did he control the yang attribute from countless miles away? Qin Xianxian muttered to himself. Qin Fenghan also did not understand. In the great world, even a 9th-level eternal sovereign like him could only cover an area of 3,000 miles with his divine sense. How much yang attribute could there be within 3,000 miles? The yang attribute that Yi Qinghan controlled was obviously not just the yang attribute within 3,000 miles. It was more like he controlled all the yang attribute in a large area. Master said that if I want to control the origin of fire, I have to treat myself as the origin of fire and let the yang attribute matter willingly adhere to me. If I want to control it, I can do it with a wave of my hand. Qin Xianxian focused and closed his eyes to sense the yang attribute matter around him. He waved his hand and controlled the high-level god fire. The temperature of the god fire increased and Qin Fenghan felt threatened. At this moment Yi Qinghan was bathed in blue light. The light beam shot into the sky like a miracle, Whoosh! The blue demonic flame turned into a divine weapon and pierced through a mountain. Then, the entire mountain melted and collapsed. Return. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and the blue demonic flame turned into a divine weapon. The blue demonic flame returned to his body. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan exhaled a mouthful of turbid air and looked at the surrounding mountain rocks that had all collapsed. Only the soil he was sitting on was subconsciously protected. A pillar towered into the sky, dozens of feet tall. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan soared into the sky, rushed out of the valley, and landed beside Qin Fenghan and Qin Xianxian. Qin Fenghan looked at Yi Qinghan's bamboo hat. The pair of blue light pierced through everything and Yi Qinghan's blue eyes could still be seen clearly. However, at this moment, Yi Qinghan was not as painful as before. Instead, he was much more relaxed. Congratulations to Mr. Yang for conquering the blue demonic flame. Qin Fenghan cupped his fists and congratulated him excitedly. Yi Qinghan shook his head and smiled bitterly. City Lord Qin is too polite. I only control 10% of the blue demonic flame now. If I want to completely control it, it will be impossible without 3 to 5 years. Chapter 1728. After chatting for a while, the beast was almost fully rested. It had also eaten some divine pills and was now full of energy. The three of them continued their journey. Qin Fenghua was still the one driving the carriage. As long as Yi Qinghan could rest well and control the blue demonic fire, he would be willing to do anything for Fire Beacon City. Qin Xianxian had reached a bottleneck in her comprehension of the divine fire. She had no choice but to seek help from Yi Qinghan again. Yi Qinghan looked up at her pitiful face and shook his head. She had at least gained control of 10% of the blue demonic fire. She would not be in so much pain that she could not control herself. He reminded her, "Sit here. The rest of the comprehension will be very painful. It will be so painful that you will lose all hope. Bear with it." "Hee, I'm afraid you won't be able to bear it." Qin Xianxian giggled. Yi Qinghan snorted. He recalled the scene yesterday afternoon. His treasure was almost broken by this brat. Thinking about it now, he was terrified. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan reached out and grabbed Qin Xuanxuan's arm. He pulled her into his embrace to prevent her from breaking free and damaging the carriage. Qin Xianxian did not struggle. She just lowered her head and blushed. "I'm warning you. If you dare to move and trigger my reaction, you will be in trouble," Yi Qinghan warned her coldly. Qin Xianxian turned her head and asked, "Are you going to eat me in the carriage?" The corner of Yi Qinghan's mouth twitched as he sneered. "Cut the crap. I'm sincerely advising you to focus on your cultivation. Now that you've angered me, wouldn't you find it exciting if we did that in this environment? You're old and disrespectful. I despise you." Qin Xianxian reprimanded him. Yi Qinghan retorted even more aggressively. "You've been shameless since you were young. How can I respect you when you're talking about such things? You're the shameless one." "Shameless?" Qin Xianxian said angrily. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan did not want to scold her anymore. He immediately used the 14th grade divine fire to envelop Qin Xianxian. Even her divine armor was about to melt. "Ah!" Qin Xianxian screamed and shook her body crazily. The fire was stimulating her soul and nerve. She roared, "You pervert! You're using your power to avenge a personal grudge. It hurts." Yi Qinghan tightly gripped her arms, preventing her from moving. He coldly said, "Enough nonsense. Comprehend the profound mysteries of the fire source. Otherwise, you will have suffered for nothing. At that time, it will be too late for you to cry." Qin Xianxian screamed in pain. His face was distorted and his hands were unable to struggle. He could only shake his body. Yi Qinghan scolded angrily, "Only by suffering the hardest of hardships can one rise to the top. Unless you want to use countless years of bitter cultivation, how can you become a divine alchemist in just 3 months? Qin Xuanxuan's soul was in a daze. He could no longer hear Yi Qinghan's words. He felt as if his heart was being eaten by thousands of ants and countless insects were gnawing away at his flesh. The desire to live will allow you to comprehend the profound mysteries of the fire's source. Only in the face of death will your world be enlightened. Everything in front of you is just an illusion. Yi Qinghan's voice reverberated in the carriage and rushed into Qin Xuanxuan's consciousness. Qin Xianxian finally calmed down. The frequency and amplitude of the distortion had decreased. However, because of this slow frequency there was still friction. Can you stop moving? Yi Qinghan growled in a low voice. I can't help it. Qin Xianxian gritted her teeth. He wanted to cry but no tears came out. Whoosh, the fire was still burning. The 14th grade divine fire burned Qin Xuanxuan's divine armor into nothingness, causing her to shake her body even more violently. If not for the fact that the carriage was too small, Yi Qinghan would definitely have lifted her up. Even if you can't help it, you have to bear with it. This is for your own good. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan increased the intensity of the divine fire, almost burning the Dharma and logos of order in her body into nothingness. Her screams were endless. This kind of cultivation was too painful. However, she did not know that Yi Qinghan had been enduring this for a long time. Otherwise, his cultivation level would not have increased so quickly. Qin Xianxian was dazed by the burning. Seeing Yi Qinghan's strength, she could not help but suck in a breath of cold air and almost pass out. Yi Qinghan saw that Qin Xianxian could not take it anymore. He had no choice but to use a simpler method, one that was comfortable and fast. Naturally, it was the win-win method. Yi Qinghan's eyes glowed with blue flames. He penetrated deep into Qin Xuanxuan's divine palace. His touch was as soft as water, and he could not help but linger. Boom, boom, boom. Yi Qinghan's blood was boiling. It was as if thousands of horses were galloping. The scorching heat made Qin Xuanxuan's body go limp. She collapsed in the carriage. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan's body shook and his divine robes were shattered. The record of yin-yang was withdrawn and returned to his body. His strong body exuded an indescribable aggressiveness and wildness. Qin Xianxian couldn't help but swallow his saliva as his hands fell limply to the ground. Master Qin Xuanxuan's soft voice gave Yi Qinghan the illusion that Emperor Yi had returned. His mind was in a mess and his vision was distorted. It was as if the person beneath him was Emperor Yi, not Qin Xianxian. I can't take it anymore, Yi Qinghan growled. In a spurt of energy, he completely occupied the divine palace. Qin Xianxian was completely convinced. He could not withstand Yi Qinghan's crazy attack. Qin Fenghan was driving the carriage. At this moment, his emotions were surging. He hoped that his granddaughter could become a godly alchemist and make Fire Beacon City stronger. However, he did not know that his granddaughter was being attacked by Yi Qinghan in his carriage. If he knew, his lungs would probably explode. The scenery outside the window was as beautiful as a painting. The clouds floated in the sky, and the gentle sunlight was exceptionally beautiful. Heaven and earth were the most perfect existence of yin and yang. There was a limit to human strength, and heaven and earth were boundless. The two of them were in harmony with yin and yang. Light shone in the carriage. The 8 trigrams of yin and yang enveloped the two of them. It was in harmony with heaven and earth. The earth rumbled, and the sound of nature reverberated in the carriage. Yi Qinghan's eyes finally became clear. While he felt comfortable, he had to suppress the demonic fire in his body. At the same time, he helped Qin Xianxian control the level 14 godly fire origin. Both of them had made great progress. Qin Xianxian finally felt the pinnacle of happiness. That feeling was like the excitement of flying into the clouds. He could feel the origin of fire in his body expanding rapidly. He could even feel Yi Qinghan's soul controlling the origin of fire. Time flew by, especially during happy times. They thought that only half an hour had passed, but the two of them did not know that a day had passed outside. The night sky was exceptionally bright, and the stars were shining brightly. Yi Qinghan released himself. Qin Xuanxuan's arrogant voice made Yi Qinghan's ears go numb. Yi Qinghan looked down at Qin Xianxian, who was in his arms. They looked at each other and did not speak for a long time. Qin Xianxian, especially, was overwhelmed with emotions. Excitement, happiness, and a sense of accomplishment surged into his mind. He was so excited that he grinned. Qin Xuanxuan's cultivation level suddenly increased by leaps and bounds. He controlled a stronger origin of fire. He also understood Yi Qinghan's cultivation experience. This day was better than 10 years of hard work. Chapter 1729. Along the way, Qin Xianxian had tasted the sweetness. Not only was it comfortable, but her comprehension ability had also improved rapidly. Originally, she would need at least a few months to comprehend the 14th level divine fire. Now, she had reached the bottleneck and was about to master the 14th level divine fire. Yi Qinghan also needed to control the yin-yang and the blue demonic fire. The two of them could make use of each other. Perhaps there were some feelings between them, but it wasn't very pure because they both had their own schemes. There were still 10 days before the competition. The carriage slowed down a lot. Yi Qinghan would occasionally open the window to look at the scenery outside. We can enter the holy city tomorrow. How do you feel? Can Xianxian become a divine pill master? Qin Fenghua asked with a smile. Yi Qinghan smiled but didn't say anything. Qin Xianxian, on the other hand, was very excited. She replied confidently, "Grandpa, I will definitely become a divine pill master before the competition begins." That's great. It's double insurance. If Fire Beacon City can win over the Inner Pill Master Association of the Eternal Sacred Land, we'll be able to regain our former glory. I'm old and I don't have many wishes. I just want to see Fire Beacon City become one of the top 10 cities in the Eternal Sacred Land. Qin Fenghua was full of pride. Grandpa, you will definitely have the chance to see it. Qin Xianxian looked at Yi Qinghan and said confidently. Yi Qinghan looked at Qin Xianxian indifferently. He knew what she was thinking, but it wasn't realistic. How could he stay in Fire Beacon City for a long time and work for the city? It's a pity that I'm old. I can't see the future. The future is full of confusion and confusion. I envy you young people. Qin Fenghua sighed. Yi Qinghan leaned against the carriage and smiled wryly. No matter how old Qin Fenghua was, he still had hundreds of thousands of years to live. What about him? Even with the recent yin-yang dual cultivation, he only had a little more than 10,000 years left. If he wasn't careful, he wouldn't even live for 10,000 years. However, he still had many things to do. He hadn't found Emperor Yi and Bai Shaoxing, and his brothers in the 9 states had nowhere to go. How could he die? He did not ask for much. All he wanted was to establish an immortal empire in Eternal World. It was not too big, just enough for his brothers to settle down. Yi Qinghan looked out the window at the trees that kept flying backward. The emotions in his eyes were very simple. Under the blue dome of heaven, white clouds rolled, birds flew, and a great river surged and roared. Mist filled the air, and spiritual energy was abundant. It was definitely suitable for humans to live in. Some villages were scattered, and even the mortals had a much better starting point than the land of the 9 continents. The land of the 9 provinces was a remote and desolate place. Everyone wanted to gain a foothold in Eternal World, let alone the prideful Yi Qinghan. One day, I will establish myself in the great world and never change my name. Yi Qinghan clenched his fists as he roared inwardly. Qin Xianxian could not feel the pressure in Yi Qinghan's heart. At this moment, she said solemnly, I will definitely take the top 3 in the alchemy master competition and show my talent. Yi Qinghan sneered. He looked out of the window and said indifferently, "Don't you see the person sitting at the top of the blue dome of heaven? Don't you know that there is always someone better than you? There are many powerful people in the world. How can you show your weakness in this remote and desolate place?" Qin Xuanxuan's hot-blooded heart was immediately defeated by Yi Qinghan. Even someone like Yi Qinghan could not be arrogant. What right did she have to be arrogant? Look into the distance. Look into the sky. What can you see? Yi Qinghan pointed at the clouds outside the window and asked. "I can see greatness, vastness, and majesty," Qin Xianxian replied crisply. "But you can't see how insignificant you are." Yi Qinghan closed the window and said indifferently, "In this carriage, you are a god. You can control everything. But when you open this door, you will realize that you are a frog at the bottom of a well. You are so insignificant that you can't withstand a single blow. Only when you walk out of this door and leave this remote and desolate place, and see the world around you, and accept their challenges, will you realize that you can actually become stronger." Qin Xianxian looked at Yi Qinghan in shock. She seemed to have understood something, but she was not sure what Yi Qinghan knew. She looked at Yi Qinghan in confusion. Vision and vision decide everything. If you want to become stronger, then Fire Beacon City is not your goal. The eternal sacred land of Sword Dao is naturally not your ultimate goal. Your goal is the true essence of the eternal world. Otherwise, you will spend the rest of your life wandering around the realm of a realm lord. Yi Qinghan reminded her. "I think I understand now. No wonder my cultivation progress is getting slower and slower. It's because all my focus is on surpassing my big brother. Once I surpass him, I will lose my motivation. Instead, I will feel complacent." Qin Xianxian was suddenly enlightened. She clenched her fists excitedly and said firmly, "My goal is to surpass you." Yi Qinghan rolled his eyes and stretched lazily. Then, with a wry smile, he said, "You'd better not surpass me. I am infamous for being a jinx. My divine pet has always called me that. Wherever I go, something big will happen. Not to mention, they are all bad. There are never any good things to be happy about, and I am the type to get into trouble. Even before entering Eternal World, you have already offended Hell and blessed Buddha Temple. And now, after entering Eternal World, you have offended the bounty hunters. If you surpass me, forget Eternal World, you won't even have a place in a minor world. You really are a jinx. Ha ha, why doesn't your divine pet come out? I want to see." Qin Xianxian stared at Yi Qinghan curiously. "Forget it. I have suppressed it in my bloodline. If it comes out, you will be the one crying." When Yi Qinghan thought of the divine bird, he could not help but smile. This fellow was too despicable. Their cooperation had improved. Otherwise, it would have been very difficult to subdue someone like Mu Zun. Qin Xianxian did not believe it. She pestered Yi Qinghan and insisted on seeing the divine bird. Yi Qinghan had no choice but to throw the divine bird out. The divine bird looked at Yi Qinghan with disdain. The look in its eyes was very unique. "Where is my blue divine flower?" The divine bird stretched out its little claw and asked. "It is poisonous and very dangerous. I will keep it for you. When you need it, I will give it to you," Yi Qinghan replied lazily. "Who are you trying to fool? Don't you know that I am the master of deceiving people?" The divine bird asked angrily. "I don't care. I worked so hard to get it. I was almost caught by that old man Mu Zun because of it. Therefore, I must have a share of the pills refined from that divine flower." Yi Qinghan knew that he could not fool it. He could only shrug and say, "Okay, no problem. That is the sky-purifying evil flame flower. It is an essential ingredient for the longevity pill. If the longevity pill is refined, I will give you one." Qin Xianxian watched the divine pet and its master bargaining. He liked the divine bird even more. He reached out to hug it, but the divine bird avoided him in disdain. It said mockingly, "I don't like women with big breasts and no brains. Don't taint my pure body and noble soul." When Qin Xianxian heard this, he was furious. He reached out to grab the divine bird. Chapter 1730. The carriage was in an uproar, but the divine bird did not give them any face. In its mind, only Emperor Yi, Bai Shaoxing, and Jian Qinxue were the official wives. The one it feared the most was Jian Qinxue. She had the dignity of an empress. She either did not speak, or if she did, she would keep her word. Perhaps even Yi Qinghan's will could be changed. Yi Qinghan finally managed to calm Qin Xianxian and the divine bird down. The two pairs of eyes were still glaring at each other, and neither was willing to compromise. Yi Qinghan looked at the divine bird, puzzled. He did not know why it was so angry and hostile towards Qin Xianxian. The next day, the carriage slowed down, and there were more and more pedestrians. The big city was in front of them. "Mr. Yang, let's go on foot. There have been too many people entering the holy city recently. The carriage can't go as fast as them," Qin Fenghua suggested as he knocked on the door. Yi Qinghan put away the divine bird and put the dark gold rod back into the oilcloth. He opened the carriage door and said, "Old Qin, let's go on foot. Miss Xianxian is only one step away from comprehending the origin of fire. It will be enough for her to cultivate once in the city. The remaining 5 days are enough for me to increase her alchemy experience." After saying that, Yi Qinghan tidied up his clothes, put on his bamboo hat, and carried the dark gold rod out of the carriage. The official road was dozens of meters wide, and there were many pedestrians. Most of them were experts, and there were many alchemists. Many of them were here to participate in the competition. Some of them were also apprentices who wanted to watch the alchemists refine pills and learn some experience. After all, many alchemists were participating in the alchemy competition. They could even see a sacred alchemist. It was as exciting as seeing an eternal warrior. The alchemy competition fascinated and even drove alchemists crazy. Many people looked at Yi Qinghan with astonishment. Many people were carrying divine weapons on their back. After all, there were not many high-level storage rings. Some high-level world implements could not be stored and could only be carried on their back. However, wearing a bamboo hat made Yi Qinghan appear mysterious. Along the way, everyone pointed at him. Men and women discussed animatedly, but some alchemists treated him like a god. Their eyes were full of respect and admiration. Yi Qinghan's body emitted a powerful fire element. Others might think that it was the pressure of a strong warrior, but the pill master understood that it was the supreme origin of fire. Moreover, it was extremely pure, and even the divine alchemist was unable to control those divine flames. To be able to control such an extreme divine flame, there was only one possibility, and that was the saint alchemist. "Great alchemy master, I'm Nanyuan Zhengbei, a grade 14 divine alchemy master from Nanyuan City. It's my honor to meet you." A divine alchemy master hurried forward and bowed respectfully. "What? He's a sacred pill master?" Whoosh! This treatment pushed Yi Qinghan to the heart of the storm. Everyone turned around and made way for him. Their eyes were full of shock and admiration. Some young men and women's eyes were shining. If they could become a disciple of a sacred pill master, wouldn't it be easy for them to become a divine alchemist in the future? Yi Qinghan frowned as he looked at Nanyuan Zhengbei, who bowed. He did not deny the rank of a sacred pill master. As long as he could completely subdue the blue flame demonic fire, he would definitely be able to create the longevity pill. It was only a matter of time before he became a sacred alchemist. "Get up, you've got the wrong person." Yi Qinghan waved his hand faintly and helped Nanyuan Zhengbei up. He then turned and walked into the city. Nanyuan Zhengbei didn't look old, but he was already past his prime. He was already a 9th-level divine alchemy master, but he had no hope of becoming a sacred pill master. He looked forward to receiving guidance from a sacred pill master. He looked at Yi Qinghan's departing figure respectfully and thought to himself, he must be a great sacred pill master. But it's normal for a sacred pill master to have a strange temper. Maybe he just wants to test my character. I must pay him a visit when I enter the city. If I can get some guidance from him, I'll benefit from it for the rest of my life. It's very possible for me to become a sacred pill master. Nanyuan Zhengbei quickly chased after him, but maintained a distance of about 10 meters. He didn't dare to be happy at all. The others were doubtful. How could a sacred pill master enter the city on foot? If a sacred pill master were to arrive, the official factions of the Eternal Sacred Land and the descendants of the Eternal Sovereign would come to welcome him. A sacred pill master was as respected as an Eternal Sovereign. Moreover, an Eternal Sovereign wouldn't offend such a person. I think Nanyuan Zhengbei got the wrong person. The fire essence in this person's body is strong, but it's a bit unstable. It's probably because he can't control it well. Plus, the stronger the fire essence, the stronger the pill refinement realm won't be. The fire essence is just a supplement to the refinement of pills. An old man in white robes walked forward, surrounded by a group of experts. He looked at Yi Qinghan's back and said with certainty, I agree with Old Yao. That man can't be a saint pill master. That kind of extravagance. Another old man shook his head in agreement. After thinking for a moment, he deduced, a saint pill master isn't a saint pill master. Every city might have one or two. Even the sects under the city might have a divine pill master. However, there are only 2 saint pill masters in the entire Eternal Sword Dao Sacred Land. Some half-step Eternal Realm experts even treat them as disciples. On the other hand, one of the 2 people beside him should be Qin Fenghua from Fire Beacon City. The little girl beside him should be a junior. The 2 powerful divine pill masters speculated. Everyone agreed. The way they looked at Yi Qinghan changed from admiration to disdain. They mocked, if you're not a sacred pill master, why are you acting so mysterious? Yi Qinghan heard them clearly. There was no need to explain anything to these people. He led Qin Xianxian and Qin Fenggo straight to the huge city in front. The city walls were 100 zhang tall. It was majestic and vast. It exuded a sense of majesty and vicissitudes. This city was probably older than many half-step Eternal Sovereigns. The city gate was several zhang tall. The guards at the gate were even more domineering. They had divine weapons in their hands and 7th-layer realm lord. No one dared to cause trouble here. Yi Qinghan looked at the endless city walls. He couldn't help but sigh. The eternal world was indeed extraordinary. One could see the foundation of a city just by looking at its periphery. There must be countless experts hidden in this city. Even a sweeper could be a supreme existence who had seen through the mortal world and lived in seclusion here. Although Qin Xianxian was a direct descendant of a city, she couldn't help but sigh when she saw the holy city. Although Fire Beacon City was powerful, it was at most a small subsidiary city in front of the holy city. Now that she thought about Yi Qinghan's words in the carriage, she finally understood what he meant. Don't you see the person sitting at the top of the sky? Don't you know that there is always someone better than you? Yi Qinghan followed Qin Fenggo into the holy city. With Qin Fenggo leading the way, the guards didn't ask much and allowed them to enter the city freely. As soon as they entered the city, they understood the grandeur of the holy city. There were countless towering buildings. Countless streets were filled with people. The holy city was even more lively these days. After all, the alchemist competition wasn't held every year. There were as many realm lords as there were dogs. However, most of them were below the 3rd layer of the realm lord realm. They occupied more than 70% of the population. There were fewer realm lords above the 3rd layer. Chapter 1731. Yi Qinghan and Qin Fenghua walked side by side. The streets were very clean. The government did not allow the sale of elixirs or treasures on the plank road. Otherwise, it would be banned. This rule made some businesses flourish. Adventurers could not sell their treasures at high prices. They could only sell them at low prices to the businesses. Every business was crowded. However, those who could open a business here were all people with strong backgrounds. They had connections with the government. No one dared to cause trouble in the city. Qin Fenghua found a few inns, but they were all full. He could not find a place to stay. He was a little anxious. In the end, he had to find an inn through his friend from the government. He was given 3 rooms. After Yi Qinghan checked in, he and Qin Xianxian practiced the dual cultivation technique. He helped her to fully understand the origin of fire. He was also trying his best to conquer the blue demonic flame. He did not show up for 3 days. Qin Fenghua was furious. After all, men and women should not touch each other. A man and a woman alone in a room. If word got out, his reputation would be ruined. Unfortunately, Qin Fenghua did not know how happy Qin Xianxian was. She was enjoying the peak of both her body and soul. She wanted to hang on Yi Qinghan and not come down. On the 3rd day, Yi Qinghan and Qin Xianxian were naked. They hugged each other and caressed each other's skin. Their eyes were filled with excitement. The room was filled with extravagance. Qin Xianxian was no longer shy. She took the initiative to snuggle into Yi Qinghan's arms. Her slender legs were wrapped around Yi Qinghan's. Her eyes were filled with admiration and love. She said, "Master, I feel like I'm going to fly." "You can't fly yet. There are only 2 days before the competition. In 2 days, you have to make 50 cauldrons of boundary-breaking pills and soul-amassing pills. You have to make sure that the success rate is more than 50%. If you want to be in the top 3, you have to make sure that you can make supreme quality elixirs. You have to ask your grandpa for the materials. You have to spend a lot of money to become an alchemist. Ordinary families could not afford to spend so much money. Even a big force like Fire Beacon City could not cultivate an alchemist. If Yi Qinghan did not help Qin Xianxian improve her origin of fire and guide her in alchemy, she would have to spend a lot of money. Qin Xianxian was speechless. She got dressed and left the room to ask Qin Fenghua for the materials. By Qin Fenghua. Even a few million. That was 1% of the alchemists. Bye. Qin Fenghua left the inn quickly. He spent 2 hours to buy more than 10 sets of materials. This was because he used his connections. After all, it was the alchemist competition. Many alchemists had gathered. They needed to accumulate experience. Now, the price of materials was high. Ordinary alchemists could only watch others compete. They could not buy too many materials themselves. When they returned to the inn, they realized that there was no alchemy room. It was impossible to concoct pills in the room. In a hurry, Qin Fenghua brought the 2 of them to a family of his good friend, the Yu clan. The Yu clan was not small. There was a realm lord level 8 expert in the clan. There was also a guest alchemist in the clan. The Yu clan head, Yu Tsongxing, heard that Qin Fenghua was here. He personally went out to welcome them with a smile. Yi Qinghan sized Yu Tsongxing up. His cultivation had reached the pinnacle of Realm Lord level 8. He should be from the same generation as Qin Fenghua. His lifespan was nearing its end. He was probably only a few tens of thousands of years away from the end of his life. He was not much better than Yi Qinghan. He was a hero past his prime. His past glory was gone. Now, he treated people very politely. Even when talking to Qin Xianxian and Yi Qinghan, his tone was very gentle. "Brother Qin, long time no see. I didn't expect to see you again in my lifetime." Yu Tsongxing sighed. Qin Fenghua's face was also sad. He pulled Yu Tsongxing's wrinkled hand and said in a low voice, "Brother Yu, we are all people with 1 foot in the grave. We have no choice but to come out personally for our clansmen. Isn't this the alchemist competition? My granddaughter received help from an expert and became a god alchemist. We want to borrow your place to concoct some pills. If she can become a true god alchemist and pull the Alchemist Association to Fire Beacon City, even if we leave, our families can still survive for a while. What? Miss Xianxian has become a god alchemist? Yu Tsongxing's shocked expression was mixed with joy. He stared at Qin Xianxian and Yi Qinghan in disbelief. Qin Xuanxuan's face was full of arrogance, but he still said respectfully to Yu Tsongxing, "Grandpa Yu, I heard that you carried me when I was born. I will kowtow to you now." After saying that, Qin Xianxian quickly knelt down and kowtowed. This was already considered the most solemn etiquette. Yu Tsongxing was overjoyed. He quickly helped Qin Xianxian up and stared at Yi Qinghan. Although he couldn't see through Yi Qinghan's special bamboo hat, he could tell that Yi Qinghan was not an ordinary person. To be able to cultivate a god alchemist, he must be at least a level 9 god alchemist. "Mr. How should I address you?" Yu Tsongxing cupped his fists and asked. Yi Qinghan bowed and replied, "Yu Clan Village. You can call me Little Yang or Zhengtian." Yu Tsongxing didn't expect Yi Qinghan to be so easy to talk to. He smiled and led the three of them into the Yu Clan Village. Yi Qinghan saw the light in Yu Tsongxing's eyes. He didn't have any evil intentions. It seemed like there was something he wanted to discuss. However, if Yu Tsongxing didn't say anything, he wouldn't take the initiative to ask. Yu Tsongxing arranged for Yi Qinghan and Qin Xianxian to have an alchemy room and a high-grade alchemy furnace. He then led Qin Fenghua into the main hall. There was no one to disturb them in the main hall. Yu Tsongxing looked at Qin Fenghua excitedly and asked, "Who is this Mr. Yang? To be able to cultivate a god alchemist, he must be a great god alchemist, right?" Qin Fenghua frowned and shook his head. He smiled bitterly and said, "There is no one I can't see through in my life. However, I can't see through this person at all." In just 3 months, he managed to cultivate Xianxian, who had no foundation in alchemy, to a god alchemist. Moreover, I can tell that this person's main focus isn't alchemy. He should be a god alchemist. What? He made Xianxian a god alchemist in 3 months? Brother, are you sure Xianxian had no foundation in alchemy? Yu Tsongxing stood up from his chair in shock. His face was full of doubt. Brother, is there anything we can't say? She went from a small cultivator to where she is now. It's not like you don't know my granddaughter. She loved martial arts since she was young. Why would she want to learn alchemy? Even if she wanted to, my Qin family might not be able to afford it. Qin Fenghua smiled bitterly. If Mr. Yang was able to raise someone who had no foundation in alchemy to a god alchemist, doesn't that mean this person's alchemy skills have reached the god alchemist realm? At the very least, he must be a god alchemist. Yu Tsongxing asked happily. Qin Fenghua shook his head and said, "That's impossible. If he was really a god alchemist, how could he stay in Fire Beacon City for so long just because of a yin-yang jade?" However, Yu Tsongxing said expectantly, "What if it's true? I happened to have a pill recipe called the longevity pill. It's a very complete pill recipe. If he could refine the longevity pill, wouldn't we be able to live another life?" This time, it was Qin Fenghua's turn to be shocked. He quickly grabbed Yu Tsongxing's hand and said, "Brother, are you serious? Everyone knows about the longevity pill and the main ingredient. However, not many people know about the details of the pill recipe. If you have it, you might be able to invite a god alchemist." Chapter 1732. This was a huge matter that concerned one's life. Being reborn, this was the fate of many world overlords. However, who would be able to achieve this step? Yu Tsongxing closed the door and carefully took out the pill formula. The main ingredients were exactly the same as everyone knew. The formula was detailed, and there were many supplementary ingredients. Every step was clear. The formula was old and a few words were missing, but it didn't hinder the refining process. This was a genuine pill formula. Brother! This is the real immortality pill formula. But it says that to refine the immortality pill, you need a 5th grade saint fire. I'm afraid that even a saint alchemist might not have such a saint fire. If we spend too much effort, I'm afraid that a saint alchemist might not help us. Qin Fenghua held the formula carefully as if he was afraid that it would break. He was excited but also a little helpless. A saint alchemist was not someone they could meet and invite as they pleased. That Mr. Yang. Why don't we give it a try? What if he really is a saint alchemist? Yu Tsongxing suggested. At this moment, in the alchemy room, Qin Xianxian was using her divine fire to burn the alchemy furnace. She had already wasted 10 alchemy furnaces. She was sweating profusely and was unwilling to give up. Wasting 1 alchemy furnace was equivalent to wasting 10,000 faith coins. It had only been a short day, and she had already spent 100,000 faith coins. Stay true to your heart and do it step by step. Don't be impatient. Even a veteran saint alchemist can refine a useless pill. Moreover, you have just mastered a 14th grade divine fire. Yi Qinghan reminded her in a low voice. Qin Xianxian exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. She used her divine fire to control the temperature. Step by step, her mind was filled with the formula of the boundary-breaking pill. Yi Qinghan stared at Qin Xianxian as he refined the elixir. Even the slightest mistake had to be corrected. Elixir refinement was very particular about the details, and the most important thing was the temperature of the fire. The slightest mistake could lead to a huge error. If one wanted to become a supreme god alchemist, one had to control the fire source to the extreme. Qin Xianxian was indeed a rare person with great wisdom. She only needed to point out the mistakes, and she could draw inferences from them. Time flew by and the temperature in the 11th cauldron had reached the optimal state. Condense the pill. Lower the temperature bit by bit. Yi Qinghan reminded her. Whoosh! Qin Xianxian formed a seal with his 10 fingers and mobilized his divine power to condense the liquid divine medicine in the cauldron into a pill. The temperature was also gradually dropping. Bang! A crisp sound reverberated within the pill furnace. This sound disrupted Qin Xuanxuan's train of thought and made her even more anxious. This was because this sound meant that a breaking barrier pill had exploded. An exploding pill was a very terrifying thing. This was because the airflow produced from within could easily cause other divine pills to explode. Don't worry. It doesn't matter if one pill explodes. Just use your divine power to envelop the other divine pills and let them succeed, Yi Qinghan immediately reminded him. When Qin Xianxian heard that, he immediately calmed down and focused on mobilizing his god power to condense the other barrier-breaking pills. Sometimes there were more than 10 pills in a cauldron, and sometimes there were more than 20 pills. It all depended on the alchemist's technique and skills. Beads of sweat appeared on Qin Xuanxuan's forehead. She had only managed to condense 8 barrier-breaking pills, and the rest had been wasted. Her spiritual energy was depleted, and she could not continue to condense pills. Bang! Another divine pill had exploded, which meant that more than half of the pills in this cauldron had been lost. The fire was extinguished and the temperature dropped to the lowest. In the end, the pills were indeed formed. However, only 7 pills were preserved, and they were all low-grade pills. Qin Xianxian looked at the breaking barrier pills that she had made and was extremely happy. This was the first cauldron of level 14 divine pills that she had made. Ha ha ha, I have finally become a divine alchemist! Qin Xianxian shouted excitedly. If this is the standard of a divine alchemist, then there are so many divine alchemists in the world. Yi Qinghan mocked with disdain. Master, this is my first time. You should be praising me for being able to condense pills so quickly. How can you be so discouraging? Qin Xianxian said unhappily. Stop talking nonsense. There is not much time left. Take a few soul-amassing pills and recover your spiritual energy. Then, continue to make pills. Strike while the iron is hot. Maybe the success rate of the next cauldron will be higher. Yi Qinghan said coldly. Qin Xianxian could only shrug her shoulders and sit cross-legged in the alchemy room. She consumed some top-grade soul-amassing pills, which were personally refined by Yi Qinghan. They were very important for the recovery of her spiritual energy. 2 or 3 of them would allow her to fully recover. While Qin Xianxian was recovering her spiritual energy, she was thinking about the steps that she had taken just now. However, the biggest problem was still her spiritual energy. It was difficult for her to make a high-grade breaking barrier pill, let alone a top-grade one. After an hour, Qin Xianxian was pleasantly surprised to find that not only had her spiritual energy recovered, but it had also become much stronger. Without destruction, there would be no construction. Qin Xianxian was full of energy as she made a cauldron of pills. Finally, she had improved. However, the quality of the pills was still low-grade. Although the quantity had increased, her spiritual energy was completely depleted. Her spiritual energy was too weak, and her soul was not strong enough. She was still far from a divine alchemist. She took another soul-amassing pill. This time, she recovered even more and her spiritual energy had more than doubled. Yi Qinghan watched her make the pills and found a few flaws. He guided her again. On the 3rd attempt, she had improved a lot. There were a few middle-grade pills, and she still had some spiritual energy left. The cycle repeated until night-time. Almost half of the pills in the cauldron were middle-grade breaking barrier pills. Occasionally, there were even a few high-grade breaking barrier pills. Qin Xianxian exhausted her spiritual energy and recovered it again. Although her spiritual energy had increased by more than 10 times, by night-time, she was so tired that she could not even stand properly. Her face was pale and devoid of color. Phew! Yi Qinghan exhaled a mouthful of turbid air and shook his head. Rest. We'll continue tomorrow for another day. I'm sure you'll be able to familiarize yourself with it. Furthermore, you might not be participating in the competition on that day. Perhaps we still have 2 days left. Qin Xianxian looked at the cauldron reluctantly. She wanted to make another cauldron, but she was rejected by Yi Qinghan. The 2 of them stepped out of the alchemy room and walked towards the main hall. The main hall was surrounded by many people. The atmosphere was very tense. Occasionally there would be angry shouts and shout. Yu Tsongxing, you promised this alchemist that you would give me 1 million strands of faith every year, in addition to 3 female slaves. But now you are reducing it step by step. You don't want me to stay in the Yu clan anymore, do you? Or are you old and confused? You don't know how high the sky is? A middle-aged man in an alchemist uniform stared at Yu Tsongxing angrily. He did not give him any face and scolded Yu Tsongxing in front of the Yu clan. Yu Tsongxing smiled and said, Master Yu Tsongxing, the clan is short on funds. I just paid you 800,000 strands of spiritual energy yesterday. Please give me a few more days. What a joke. Give you a few more days? Who would give me a few more days? It is the alchemist competition now. Many people are looking for me to make a move. Many clans are offering me 1,100,000 strands of spiritual energy every year. I am unwilling to leave because of old friendship, but you are really good. You actually embezzled my spiritual energy. Today you must pay me back. Otherwise, I will leave the Yu clan today and join your enemy, the Wang clan. I will represent the Wang clan in the alchemist competition. The middle-aged master Yu Tsongxing was very arrogant. Chapter 1733. Master Su's words were simply infuriating. If it was any other clan, they would not be able to tolerate it. However, this sentence really frightened Yu Tsongxing. The Yu clan was not small. There were more than 100,000 of them. Every year, they would consume a few million faith coins. If they did not have a divine alchemist, the Yu clan would collapse just by relying on divine pills. Master Su, you have worked with the Yu clan for so long. Don't you understand my character? Yu Zongxing had no choice but to bow and smile. Stop talking nonsense. If you can take out the faith coins today, we can continue working together. Otherwise, Master Su snorted. Everyone in the Yu clan was furious. Didn't Su Zhongxiao raise the price because the Yu clan's rival, the Wang clan, offered a high price? Now that he was so heartless and even humiliated the clan leader in front of everyone, they could not tolerate it. Otherwise what? If you don't want to stay in the Yu clan, then get lost. I am also a divine alchemist. Without you, the Yu clan can still survive. Qin Xianxian finally could not hold it in anymore and scolded him directly. Su Zhongxiao turned around and saw that it was actually a brat who was still wet behind the ears. He could not help but smile and mocked. You? Divine alchemist? What do you think a divine alchemist is? A common one? What is it if not a common one? Is it difficult? As long as my master wants to, he can easily nurture a few hundred divine pill refiners like you. I've only been practicing alchemy for 3 months. It won't be a problem for me to defeat you in the pill refiner competition. Qin Xianxian mocked with a sharp tongue. Su Zhongxiao looked at Yi Qinghan with satisfaction and disdain. At this moment, the demonic fire in Yi Qinghan's body was already under control and was no longer visible. He really could not see what was so special about Yi Qinghan. However, no matter what kind of person Yi Qinghan was, it was impossible for him to cultivate a few hundred divine alchemists in 3 months. Even a saint alchemist would not be able to do that. At this time, a few of Su Zhongxiao's disciples could not bear it anymore. Their master was humiliated, so they had to bite a few times. The middle-aged man in the lead immediately shouted angrily, "Where did this wild girl come from? How dare you be so disrespectful to a divine alchemist? You really have no manners." Master, I reckon that the Yu clan is at their wits' end. They don't have any money or an alchemist, so they just want to annoy you. You are a high and mighty divine alchemist. Arguing with them would only lower your status. Let's just leave. This kind of poor clan without a divine alchemist would probably collapse in 3 to 5 years. When the time comes, he will beg you to come back like a dog, another wretched young man said as he looked at Yi Qinghan and Qin Xianxian with disdain. Yi Qinghan, on the other hand, was not interested in arguing with a bunch of clowns. He just watched as Qin Xianxian battled the crowd of heroes, scolding them until their faces turned red. What kind of existence was Su Zhongxiao? He was a divine alchemist who was respected by thousands of clans. When had he ever been insulted by a stinky girl? In the end, he flew into a rage out of humiliation and said, "Little bastard, you dare to insult me? Then let's see who's the real deal in the alchemist competition. If you can make it to the finals, I will retreat whenever I see you in the future. If any of your so-called master and disciple surpasses me in terms of skill, I will kneel down and kowtow to you. If you can't make it to the finals, you will kneel down and kowtow 100 times to me in front of everyone. Do you dare? My master disdains to compare himself with you. At that time I could have easily crushed you. Hurry up and get lost." Qin Xianxian angrily rebuked. The more Yi Qinghan did not want to join in the argument, the more that group of people thought that the Yu clan was deliberately finding people to humiliate them in order to regain their face. Su Zhongxiao's disciples immediately cursed. Does the Yu clan think that by finding 2 trash to act as divine alchemists, they can scare us? If this kind of trash is really a divine alchemist, I will use my head to walk in the future. Su Zhongxiao said even more confidently. You 2 trash, don't find so many excuses. Do you dare to accept the challenge? Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed coldly as he stared at Su Zhongxiao. He really did not understand how this kind of ignorant person could cultivate to the level of a divine alchemist. Old thing, do you know that there is always someone better than you? You only have the strength of a divine alchemist, yet you dare to be so arrogant and speak so vulgarly. Aren't you afraid of messing up your Tao heart? Yi Qinghan frowned as he warned. Little trash, I naturally know that there is always someone better than you. However, the difference between someone better than you and someone better than you is not the two of you who only know how to hide your head and show your tail. Su Zhongxiao sneered as he scolded. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed with killing intent. However, there were rules in the city that forbade them from fighting. He was also not willing to fight with this kind of person. He said coldly, "If you can win against my disciple in the alchemist competition, I will reward you with 10 million strands of money. If you lose, you have to crawl 1 round in the alchemist competition. Do you dare? 10 million strands of money? Do you have it? If you can take it out, I will agree to your bet." Su Zhongxiao said confidently. "I am Qin Fenghua, the city lord of Fire Beacon City. I can still take out 10 million strands of money. If you can win, I will give you 10 million strands of money. If you don't believe me, you can record it with the image stone and write it down." Qin Fenghua immediately walked up and said. When Su Zhongxiao heard that it was Qin Fenghua, he was shocked. He stared at Yi Qinghan and thought to himself, could it be that this person's alchemy skills are really terrifying? However, it is still very easy for me to win against this brat who is still wet behind the ears. When the time comes, I will use my connections to line up in the same team as her and be closer to her. I will interfere with her alchemy and cause her to be eliminated in the preliminary round. Wouldn't that be a piece of cake? When he thought of this, Su Zhongxiao immediately smiled proudly and said disdainfully, "Since City Lord Qin wants to offer 10 million strands of money to me, it would be impolite for me to refuse. Then, I will write it down now and record it with the image stone. In the name of the Supreme Eternal Sovereign, I will declare that this bet is protected by the law." When Yu Tsongxing saw that the bet was so big, he understood Su Zhongxiao very well and immediately went forward to persuade him, "Forget it, there is no need to bicker with them. 10 million strands of money is not a small amount. If you lose, Fire Beacon City will be affected." You dare to make a promise? Do you think the words of a city lord are like farts? When Su Zhongxiao saw Yu Tsongxing's persuasion, he was immediately filled with confidence. He was afraid that Qin Fenghua would not dare to bet, so he quickly provoked him. Yi Qinghan sneered and replied disdainfully, "Bet? Why not? However, I will bet 5 million strands of faith with you. If you dare to accept, then this bet will take effect." Su Zhongxiao smiled coldly and said hoarsely, "You want to use money to scare me? 5 million strands of faith is just a few years of worship. I will bet with you." Therefore, with Yu Tsongxing as the witness, the image stone recorded their bet. The bet involved 15 million strands of faith. It was very shocking. The divine bird wanted to run out and gamble, but unfortunately, Yi Qinghan did not allow it to run out. However, it also had a lot of money in its storage ring. Back then, it had won more than 1 million strands of faith. Later on, it earned some more in Great Buddha City. It was enough to scare people to death. Su Zhongxiao looked at Qin Fenghua and Yu Tsongxing's dignified and embarrassed faces and was immediately filled with confidence. It was as if the 15 million strands of faith were already in his hands. He left with his disciples. Chapter 1734. Just as the Yu clan's people were discussing, a voice was suddenly heard, causing everyone to fall into silence. "Nan Yuan Zhengbei of Nan Yuan City is here to visit the Yu clan." The voice was deep and resounding. Yu Tsongxing was shocked. The southern Abyss City was not far from the Holy City, but Nan Yuan Zhengbei was even more famous than the southern Abyss City. This was because this person's alchemy skills had already reached the peak of great god alchemist, and he already had 2 disciples who had become god alchemists. Furthermore, this time, Nan Yuan Zhengbei was the vice judge of the alchemist competition and also the vice president of the Alchemist Association. This kind of person shouldn't have any connections with the Yu clan. Yi Qinghan raised his eyebrows, knowing that Nan Yuan Zhengbei was here to look for him. He could not help but shake his head and smile bitterly. He did not know much about alchemy, so it was impossible for him to teach a god alchemist level 9 expert. Nan Yuan Zhengbei was more than enough to teach him. Yu Zongxing jogged and welcomed Nan Yuan Zhengbei to the main hall. There were only Yi Qinghan and Qin Fenghua in the main hall. Qin Xianxian had already entered his room to rest. When Nan Yuan Zhengbei saw Yi Qinghan, he immediately said happily, "Mr. is indeed here, please accept this student's bow." After saying that, Nan Yuan Zhengbei bowed 90 degrees to Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan immediately went forward to help him up and said honestly, "Elder Nan Yuan, you have mistaken me for someone else. I am really not a saint alchemist." Yu Zongxing and Qin Fenghua were dumbfounded. A great god alchemist actually bowed to Yi Qinghan so respectfully. Could it be that Yi Qinghan was really a saint alchemist? However, Nan Yuan Zhengbei did not listen to Yi Qinghan's explanation, and still firmly believed that he was a saint alchemist. He thought that a saint alchemist should be this arrogant and unwilling to admit his identity, so he did not force him to admit it. He bowed again and said, "There is always someone to learn from. Mister, you look like a dragon among men, you have definitely surpassed this old man in some areas, please enlighten me." Yi Qinghan took a deep breath and rolled his eyes at the sky. He sighed and said, "This old man is really stubborn. I've already admitted that I'm not a saint alchemist. Why is he still holding on to me?" Sigh. "You are a great god pill refiner level 9 expert, and your pill refining skills far surpass mine. How could I dare to display my slight skill in front of an expert?" Yi Qinghan laughed bitterly and sighed. In the main hall, the 2 of them were acting humble towards each other. They didn't even put Yu Zongxing and Qin Fenghua in their eyes. It was as though there were only the 2 of them in the main hall. However, divine pill masters were all arrogant. Within the same realm, the status of a divine pill master was much higher than experts at the sector lord level 8 and above. Yi Qinghan was extremely helpless. This Nan Yuan Zhengbei was too stubborn. He could only reluctantly agree to exchange pointers. However, he had to wait until nighttime. This was because he wanted to make use of this great god pill refiner level 9 expert for free. If he helped to nurture Qin Xianxian, he might really be able to win against Su Zhongxiao in the alchemy competition. When Nan Yuan Zhengbei heard Yi Qinghan agree, he was instantly overjoyed. Why would he care about the time of the exchange? He just wanted to stay in the Yu clan and beg for food and wine. Yu Zongxing was the one who was overjoyed. Normally, people wouldn't even have the chance to curry favor with such an expert. This expert was taking the initiative to curry favor with him. The 4 of them set up a table in the main hall. In order to curry favor with Nan Yuan Zhengbei, Yu Zongxing toasted him with all his might. Nan Yuan Zhengbei, in order to curry favor with Yi Qinghan, also toasted him with all his might. Qin Fenghua and Yi Qinghan's foreheads were dripping with sweat. After 3 rounds of wine, Nan Yuan Zhengbei asked expectantly, "Mr. Yang, how do you think the origin of fire can be used to the highest level of godly medicine?" Yi Qinghan frowned and thought for a while. Then, he replied, "I think it should be the extreme temperature. If you can control the temperature of the flame as you wish, then you can use all of the godly medicine." "Then can you explain how you use the origin of fire? Or can you personally demonstrate it? This old man will be extremely grateful," Nan Yuan Zhengbei said expectantly. Yi Qinghan pointed at the wine in his cup and said calmly, "Everyone knows that wine helps with combustion. However, it's almost unrealistic to let wine and fire coexist. Unless you can manipulate the fire as if it's a part of your body, then they can coexist. Hua! Yi Qinghan waved his hand and controlled a blue flower. It was the sky-purifying demonic flame flower evolved from the blue flame demonic flame. The flame could actually emit a faint spiritual energy. The flower was vivid and lifelike. The order of each spark was perfectly displayed. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan pressed his hand down. The blue flame demonic flame evolved from the divine flower took root in the wine. It didn't raise the temperature at all. The spirit wine didn't help the combustion either. It was like a divine flower in water. With a gentle movement, the flame swayed and rippled. It was perfect to the extreme. Hiss, hiss, hiss. The three of them were shocked, especially Nanyuan Zhengbei. At this moment, he was 100% sure that Yi Qinghan was a saint alchemist. Otherwise, how could he control such a terrifying flame? Yu Zongxing didn't understand how terrifying the blue flame demonic flame was, but Qin Fenghua did. This flame could instantly burn a mid-level godly alchemist expert to death. As for Nanyuan Zhengbei, he was even more aware of how terrifying this flame was. It was the blue flame demonic flame that no one had ever conquered. Plop! Nanyuan Zhengbei directly knelt in front of Yi Qinghan and said respectfully, "Mister, please teach this student how to control this flame. From today onwards, I will follow you as your servant. I won't regret it even if I die." Yi Qinghan didn't dare to accept such a huge bow. He could control the flame to the extreme, but any great god alchemist could teach him alchemy. Seeing Nanyuan Zhengbei kneel, he immediately jumped up and dodged. He pulled Nanyuan Zhengbei up from the side. "Senior, please don't make me feel bad. How can I accept your bow?" Yi Qinghan immediately said, "Mister, if this student doesn't break through to the saint alchemist realm, I will be facing the end of my lifespan. This student sincerely seeks your guidance, and is willing to serve you for the rest of my life. Please take pity on me, Mr. Teacher," Nanyuan Zhengbei said in despair. Yi Qinghan wanted to smack his head. If he could teach, why wouldn't he? Wasn't this just giving him a saint alchemist? He would be a bastard if he refused. However, he couldn't teach him. If he didn't have the ability, he only had 2 pill recipes. If it was refining the breaking barrier pill and the soul amassing pill, there weren't many people who could compare to him. However, he didn't know any of the other high-grade pills. Left with no choice, Yi Qinghan could only agree verbally. At most, he would teach him how to control the blue flame demon fire. They could discuss it further. If he could really help him become a saint alchemist, it meant that his opportunity had arrived. If he couldn't, he could only say that he wasn't destined to have this opportunity. After receiving Yi Qinghan's verbal agreement, Nanyuan Zhengbei cried tears of joy. However, he didn't know that what Yi Qinghan said was the truth. It was just his own wishful thinking. After staying in the Yu clan for a day, Qin Xianxian finally recovered to his peak state. His mental strength had increased tremendously and could be compared to a normal divine alchemist. However, it was impossible for him to get a good result in the alchemist competition. It was even more impossible for him to win against Su Zhongxiao. "Xianxian, let me introduce you. This is Elder Nanyuan Zhengbei from Nanyuan City. He is a level 9 divine alchemist. Let him teach you tonight. Maybe there will be a shortcut," Yi Qinghan said as he pointed at Nanyuan Zhengbei. Qin Xianxian was instantly overjoyed. He quickly showed off his skills to Nanyuan Zhengbei and refined a batch of breaking barrier pills. Half of them were middle-grade pills, a third of them were high-grade pills, and the rest were low-grade pills. When Nanyuan Zhengbei found out that Qin Xianxian only had 2 to 3 days of alchemy experience and 3 months of time to comprehend the fire origin, he was completely convinced by Yi Qinghan. That feeling was indescribable. When he thought about how he had spent countless years and money to nurture 2 middle-level divine alchemists, he suddenly felt so ashamed that he couldn't raise his head. Chapter 1735. With Nanyuan Zhengbei, a genuine great god alchemist expert, by his side, Yi Qinghan had peace and quiet. He didn't care about Qin Xuanxuan's progress as he sat by the side alone to comprehend the blue demonic flame. After so many rounds of yin and yang harmonization, he had already suppressed most of the blue demonic flame. In a few years, he would be able to fully control it. With this blue demonic flame, he would be able to refine the longevity pill if he obtained the pill recipe and ingredient. At this moment, Qin Xianxian realized that Yi Qinghan only knew how to refine the boundary pill and soul-amassing pill. He only knew how to refine the boundary pill and the soul-amassing pill. However, Nanyuan Zhengbei was the real deal. She was smart enough to understand it. Her alchemy skills improved by leaps and bounds. In the middle of the night, she had grasped the essence of the boundary pill. Junior sister's alchemy talent is the highest I have ever seen. It seems like teacher's wisdom is extraordinary. This must be due to teacher's teachings. Nanyuan Zhengbei clapped his hands and praised. He attributed Qin Xuanxuan's talent to Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan opened his eyes. He felt ashamed. If he had the ability, he would have become a saint alchemist a long time ago. Why would he have to worry about his lifespan? Qin Xianxian rested for a while before she started refining the soul-amassing pill again. Yi Qinghan listened to Nanyuan Zhengbei's explanation and nodded. He finally understood the essence of alchemy. It was different from his own unorthodox method. Yi Qinghan was also a smart person. He was able to infer many things from one example. He was able to quickly understand other pill recipes and bring them to greater height. Nanyuan Zhengbei was worthy of being a peak great god alchemist. As the saying went, listening to a wise man's words was better than 10,000 years of hard work. It was no wonder that countless alchemists wanted to become a disciple of a great god alchemist. Another night passed. Although Qin Xianxian was so tired that he couldn't even open his eyes, he was still very excited and wanted to learn more. Nanyuan Zhengbei watched as Yi Qinghan nodded his head incessantly. He was secretly delighted. Now was the time to curry favor with Yi Qinghan. As long as Yi Qinghan was happy, it was only right for him to open his mouth and teach him a few words. If he could listen to the Saint Alchemy Master's explanation, his improvement would definitely be astonishing. At his level, he was only one step away from the door. All he needed was Yi Qinghan's help. "Teacher, can you demonstrate the essence of pill refinement for me?" Nanyuan Zhengbei bowed and asked respectfully. Yi Qinghan swallowed his saliva. He didn't dare to display his slight skill in front of an expert, but since Nanyuan Zhengbei was looking forward to it, it would be unreasonable not to teach him a thing or two. "Don't call me teacher. I don't deserve it," Yi Qinghan said seriously. Nanyuan Zhengbei laughed bitterly. "It's natural that teacher isn't willing to teach me. This old man only wishes to see teacher give me a chance to practice." Yi Qinghan was embarrassed by Nanyuan Zhengbei's words. His face turned red and his body felt numb. "All right, my pill refinement skills aren't as good as yours. However, I might be able to give you some pointers on controlling the fire origin." Yi Qinghan was very confident in his control of the fire origin. Those so-called Saint Alchemy Masters were probably on the same level as him. Even if they were stronger, they wouldn't be that much stronger. Nanyuan Zhengbei was overjoyed when he heard this. He immediately bowed and looked at Yi Qinghan with anticipation. Yi Qinghan stood up and grabbed at the air. Blue demon flame appeared in his palm. He crossed his hands and the flames spread. There wasn't any sense of heat and it didn't burn anything. However, Only Yi Qinghan knew that this ball of flame could instantly burn a Sector Lord Level 8 expert to death. Hua! The blue demon flame got close to the cauldron. The cauldron almost couldn't withstand such a temperature. This was the result of Yi Qinghan intentionally suppressing it. Woo woo woo! Flames shot out in all directions. As the energy swayed, countless fire origin entered the cauldron. The impurities within were instantly burned to nothing. Xiu xiu xiu. Yi Qinghan placed the ingredients into the cauldron step by step. They were instantly melted into liquid. The temperature continued to drop, but the medicinal properties weren't burned to nothing. Yi Qinghan's control of the temperature had reached the extreme. If it was someone else controlling a grade 15 god flame to burn a grade 14 god herb, the herb's medicinal properties would have been burned long ago. Others would need at least 2 hours to concoct a cauldron of soul-gathering pills. However, Yi Qinghan was able to lower the temperature and condense the pills in just half an incense's time. The aroma surged into the sky and actually rushed out of the room. Nanyuan Zhengbei's pupils constricted and he took in a cold breath. At this moment, he was certain that this cauldron of soul-gathering pills had surpassed the limit. He couldn't concoct it himself. As expected, Yi Qinghan formed seals with his palms. The temperature instantly dropped to ice. The entire cauldron had no temperature at all. Nanyuan Zhengbei had never seen someone who could lower the temperature of the god flame to such an extent. Yi Qinghan had played with the fire to the extreme. Pung! With a flick of Yi Qinghan's finger, the lid of the cauldron popped open. Golden light shot out in all directions. The soul-amassing pills inside were all pure gold in color, and their fragrance filled the air. This kind of pill had already surpassed the limit. Only a Saint Pill Master could achieve this. Teacher, a cauldron that you casually concoct is something that I won't be able to catch up to in my lifetime. Nanyuan Zhengbei was shocked. His Tao heart thundered. He didn't have the slightest bit of confidence that he could reach this boundary. Nanyuan Zhengbei wasn't too bad. Yi Qinghan also didn't want his actions to ruin the future of an alchemy grandmaster. He shook his head and said, Senior Nanyuan, there is no need to think too much. As the saying goes, there are experts in every field. I have a fire source body, and I have been bitterly cultivating the fire source since I was a child. I have also obtained several lucky chances, and my control over fire has reached perfection. I am confident that I can match a Saint Pill Master. But in terms of alchemy, even if I cultivate for another 1,000 years, I will still be inferior to you. Nanyuan Zhengbei bitterly smiled. He knew that Yi Qinghan was only trying to comfort him. His heart sank deeper and deeper into despair. Senior Nanyuan, come and experience the 14th grade fire source that I control. Then, I will let you experience the essence of the blue flame demon fire. Then, you will know that I am not lying. Yi Qinghan faintly smiled. His hands swiped across the void. Flames appeared out of nowhere, forming a 7-foot berserk saber. It didn't have any temperature and was orderly. Nanyuan Zhengbei expectantly reached out to touch the 7-foot berserk saber. He could feel the temperature of the saber slowly rising in a very orderly manner. Yi Qinghan had even revealed to him the true meaning of controlling the fire source. The true meaning gathered in the flames. It couldn't be explained with words. Only Nanyuan Zhengbei was immersed in the true meaning of the fire source. His face was filled with shock. Occasionally, he would reveal shock and bewilderment. He was terrified by Yi Qinghan's control over the fire source. At this moment, Nanyuan Zhengbei felt that Yi Qinghan was the true meaning of fire. He was the manifestation of the fire source. He wasn't an existence of flesh and blood. Just this achievement alone was enough for him to be the mentor of any divine alchemist. Even if he wasn't a Saint Pill Master, he would be equivalent to a divine alchemist. Hua! Yi Qinghan's flaming saber rapidly turned into a divine sword, a staff, The flaming divine weapon in his hand turned into a divine flower occasionally. Roar! The flames of a ferocious tiger appeared in the room. Sometimes the temperature would be as hot as the sun. Sometimes it would be as cold as ice. Roar! Yi Qinghan waved his hand. The flames turned into a divine dragon and dove towards the roof. However, when it touched the roof, it turned into nothingness. It was as if it had never appeared. Chapter 1736. Nanyuan Zhengbei was shocked. He had never seen anyone who could control the essence of fire to such a perfect state. The temperature of the fire could actually be as cold as ice. Yi Qinghan looked at Nanyuan Zhengbei's infatuated expression and couldn't help but laugh. "Senior, you must be joking." Only then did Nanyuan Zhengbei come to his senses. He blushed with shame as he replied, "Teacher, if this level of control is considered a small trick, wouldn't I be too ashamed to face others?" "Senior, you don't have to call yourself a student. This junior can't afford it. I have only lived for a few tens of thousands of years. Senior is a master of a generation. This junior admires and respects you. Please don't make things difficult for this junior." Yi Qinghan bowed slightly. Nanyuan Zhengbei's eyes reddened. He was extremely moved. He sighed and said, "Mister, you will definitely become a supreme being among men in the future. You will be able to step into the eternal realm. In the entire eternal world's younger generation, no one can be compared to you. With this state of mind, you are unfazed by honor and disgrace. You can instantly kill many experts of the older generation." Yi Qinghan was shocked. He didn't expect Nanyuan Zhengbei to be able to guess his identity. Was it a coincidence? Or was it just a random guess? "Mister, there's no need to panic. I already knew Mister's identity. Mister's flame of life is on and off, so you must be severely injured. Aside from you, there's no one else in the younger generation who's as powerful as you who's so heavily injured. If I wanted to harm you, there's no need for me to say it now. At the very least, I should have waited until you demonstrated the might of a 15th grade divine flame and your experience in controlling it. Then, I wouldn't have bowed to you as a disciple and asked for your guidance." Qin Xianxian was also shocked. He didn't expect someone to be able to see through Yi Qinghan's identity. The atmosphere in the room instantly became awkward. There were even faint fluctuations of divine power. However, after a long time, Yi Qinghan nodded. If Nanyuan Zhengbei really wanted to harm him, there was no need for him to say it now. He didn't care about the bounty from the three major powers. As for hell, it wouldn't be of much help to him. If he really reached his limit, his soul would directly disperse and turn into energy to enter the cycle of reincarnation. It was impossible to maintain a complete state. The experts of hell wouldn't be able to help him. "Then why are you telling me that you already know my identity?" Yi Qinghan took off his bamboo hat and asked Nanyuan Zhengbei. "I respect your character and do not wish to hide anything from you. Otherwise, I would feel guilty for the rest of my life and would not be able to die in peace." Nanyuan Zhengbei bowed and replied, "Thank you." Yi Qinghan stared into Nanyuan Zhengbei's eyes. Nanyuan Zhengbei's deep eyes did not have any evil intentions, they were extremely pure. Such a person was indeed qualified to reach the peak of the great God Pill Master realm, and even become a Saint Pill Master. Nanyuan Zhengbei admired Yi Qinghan very much, and every word he said was filled with respect. "It's only right. There are very few people like you now. If you die in battle, it will be a great loss to the great eternal world." Yi Qinghan said honestly, "Senior, you flatter me. The sky is already bright, and today is the day to register for the alchemy competition. As the vice president of the Alchemist Association, you should be there to host it. I also want to register with Xian Xian. Let's go together. When the competition is over, I will show you the control of a 5th grade divine flame." Whether you can become a saint pill master or not will depend on your luck. Nanyuan Zhengbei nodded repeatedly and reminded, Mister, I have a spot in my hands that can directly enter the semifinals. I will give it to you so that you won't have to compete with those ordinary alchemists and sully your identity. Yi Qinghan was overjoyed when he heard this. He really didn't want to show his face in public, so he was naturally happy to accept it. The three of them left the alchemy room together. Qin Fenghua was already waiting at the door, and Yu Tsongxing was also standing at the side with a face full of anticipation. Yi Qinghan stepped out of the room and saw Yu Tsongxing respectfully walking over. He presented a brocade box with both hands and bowed. Mr. Yang, this old man has a gift for you. Perhaps you will like it. Yi Qinghan took the brocade box in surprise and gently tore open the seal on it. When he opened the brocade box, his body trembled and his eyes flashed with blue light. He immediately sealed the brocade box and hid it in his mind instead of in his storage ring. It was clear how important this gift was to him. I understand. Once I find the materials, I will definitely give you one pill after I refine it. Yi Qinghan suppressed his frenzied emotions and pretended to be calm as he said, Senior Nanyuan, can you transfer a divine alchemist from Nanyuan City to the Yu clan? If Mr. asks, not to mention one, even two is not a problem. Nanyuan Zhengbei replied solemnly. Qin Fenghua and Yu Tsongxing were overjoyed. They were even more curious about Yi Qinghan's identity. They didn't expect that he could make a great divine alchemist so respectful. Even if he wasn't a divine alchemist, he was close. At this moment, the way Qin Fenghua and Yu Tsongxing looked at Yi Qinghan was different. They were filled with deep respect. Many thanks, Mr. Nanyuan. This old man is moved to tears. Yu Tsongxing said respectfully to Nanyuan Zhengbei. Nanyuan Zhengbei smiled and said, No need to thank me. If you really want to thank someone, thank Mr. Yi Qinghan shrugged his shoulders. Just based on the gift that Yu Tsongxing gave him, not to mention a divine alchemist and a longevity pill, even if it was 10 times the price, he would still laugh. How could he have the face to accept someone else's gratitude? No need to thank me. I should be the one thanking you. Let's go and watch the Peerless Alchemist ceremony together. Yi Qinghan pursed his lips and smiled. At this moment, Yi Qinghan was in a very good mood. This was because the gift that Yu Tsongxing gave him was none other than the longevity pill's recipe. It was priceless. Perhaps he found it in some ancient ruins by chance. One had to admit that his luck was truly heaven-defying to be able to find such a peerless treasure. The group quickly walked towards the center of the city. There was a huge plaza at the center of the city. It was hundreds of miles wide and could accommodate close to 10 million people. At this moment, it was already packed with people. There were countless divine alchemists on the official road. There were also quite a few divine alchemists. They all represented different clans, cities, and overlords. This time, every force had sent someone to participate. This wasn't just about the glory of the alchemist. It also decided where the Alchemist Association headquarters would be located. There was endless value hidden in the depth. Yi Qinghan walked in the center with the dark gold rod on his back. The other 4 stood guard around him, afraid that someone would suddenly make a move and expose his identity. There was almost no one who didn't know Nanyuan Zhengbei. He walked at the front and thought that Yi Qinghan and the others were his retainers. They all greeted him, hoping to get familiar with him. Nanyuan Zhengbei was quite easygoing and nodded in response. He wasn't like the other divine alchemists, who were arrogant as if their eyes grew on their foreheads. With Nanyuan Zhengbei leading the way, the 4 quickly entered the plaza. At this moment, there were hundreds of Alchemist Association members helping to record and distribute identity tablet. Only those who had obtained an identity tablet could participate in the alchemist competition. However, if one wanted to participate, they had to prepare their own ingredients and pay 10,000 strands of faith money. Not everyone could participate. Chapter 1737. With Nanyuan Zhengbei's presence, the simple registration was quickly approved. Nanyuan Zhengbei then went back to his own business. Yi Qinghan and Qin Xianxian, on the other hand, were sizing up the pill masters and divine pill masters in the plaza. Knowing one's enemy was the key to victory. The four of them strolled around for a while. Just as they were about to go to a restaurant to celebrate, a piercing voice rang out, startling many people. Yo, isn't this the almighty existence who can train hundreds of divine pill masters in 3 to 5 days? Have you registered? Does the Pill Master Association allow trash like you to participate? Su Zhongxiao walked over with a group of people in an aggressive manner. He stared at Yi Qinghan provocatively. Master Su, is this the person you were talking about? He looks more like a swindler. We don't even know if he knows how to refine pills, let alone participate in the competition. Ah! A young man laughed with disdain. The group of people followed suit, mocking and provoking Yi Qinghan. Yu Zongxing hurried forward and reminded. He's from the Wang family of the Holy City. His family has been around for countless years. They're even stronger than the Yu family and Fire Beacon City. Their family head is related to some disciples of the Eternal Sword Dao Sacred Land. We shouldn't provoke them. Yi Qinghan shook his head. He didn't want to talk to them. Instead, he turned to Qin Fenghan and Qin Xianxian and said, "Let's go find an inn and have something to eat. It's quiet." When Su Zhongxiao saw that Yi Qinghan didn't reply, he thought that Yi Qinghan didn't dare to go against the Wang family and didn't dare to accept his challenge. He immediately clapped his hands and said, "Come, come, come. Everyone, come and take a look. This person is arrogant and despotic and looks down on divine alchemists. He said that he could train a few hundred divine alchemists in 3 months. He also made a bet with me. The bet is 15 million. Su Zhongxiao took out a written record and waved it. It attracted the attention of many pill masters and divine pill masters. The divine alchemists looked at Yi Qinghan with enmity and disdain. They all began to mock him. "Arrogant kid, how dare you look down on divine pill masters? Don't you know that a divine alchemist is the treasure of every small city? Every big family is willing to worship a god alchemist, but you humiliated a god alchemist like this. Apologize to us. That's right. Otherwise, I'll teach you a lesson. Do you still want to stay in the Alchemist Guild? Looking down on divine alchemists is looking down on the Alchemist Association. Insulting divine alchemists is insulting the Alchemist Association. Insulting the Alchemist Association is insulting everyone in the world. Kneel down and apologize." All of a sudden, a dozen or so alchemists gathered around. It was as if they had already discussed this beforehand, and they had stirred up the emotions of the alchemists in the plaza. Sure enough, a few neutral god alchemists walked over after a short while. They glared angrily at Yi Qinghan and the others. From today onwards, if any divine alchemist dares to work with the Fire Beacon City and the Yu clan, they will no longer be part of the Alchemist Guild. No one is allowed to associate with them. A powerful divine alchemist warned. Yi Qinghan exhaled a mouthful of turbid air and looked at Su Zhongxiao. He didn't expect this person to be so capable. With just a few words, he had caused him to be spurned by everyone in the world. "Su Zhongxiao, for trash like you, I don't even want to gamble with you. Since you provoked me like this, and everyone else spoke up for you, attacking the Fire Beacon City and the Yu clan, I'll say it right here. All of you are trash in terms of alchemy. If you don't accept it, I'll see you in the competition. If any one of you can win against my disciple, it'll be my loss. I'll apologize to all of you in front of everyone in the world." Yi Qinghan snorted coldly. This caused a huge uproar. At this time, there were at least 30 small powers surrounding the Yu clan and the Fire Beacon City. Although they weren't very powerful, they were still a terrifying power if they joined forces. After being humiliated by Yi Qinghan, they were immediately enraged. Those large powers God Pill Masters didn't want to interfere because of their status, but they were also hostile towards Yi Qinghan. The Medicine King Manor's few God Pill Masters stood alone in a corner. Around them, there were more than 10 Sector Lord Level 7 experts protecting them. No one dared to approach them. They were all attendants of the Pill Master Association, and their status wasn't much lower than Nan Yuan Zhengbei. Moreover, their alchemy skills were definitely top-notch. The Medicine King, who was the leader, stood shoulder to shoulder with Nan Yuan Zhengbei. At this moment, he stared at Yi Qinghan and said indifferently, "This person is too arrogant. He won't amount to much. I believe that he won't be able to enter the semi-finals and will be eliminated. What do you all think?" Ha ha ha, Medicine King's eyes are sharp. He has never misjudged people. Since you said so, I, Zhou Xian, will naturally agree. A white-haired old man with a youthful face replied with a smile. We're all judges. Even if he has some ability, we can make him unable to enter the semi-finals. Another strong great god Pill Master said in disdain. The group laughed but didn't say anything. They weren't interested in looking at Yi Qinghan anymore. Yi Qinghan hadn't expected that his words would cause these senior great alchemists to be so dissatisfied. They were even going to use their full strength to force him out of the semifinals. He was truly unlucky. Su Zhongxiao and the others were infuriated by Yi Qinghan's insults and left the square after throwing out some harsh words. The Wang family's leader said proudly on the way, "Teacher Su, don't worry. You're now our Wang family's helper. Offending you is the same as offending our Wang family. Don't even talk about that half-baked god Pill Master. Even Qin Fenghua won't be able to walk away unscathed." Su Zhongxiao smiled and said, "With Wang family's young master's words, this old man can rest assured. However, there's no need to teach them a lesson for now. I'll settle the score with them after I humiliate them in the alchemy competition." Wang Zichen, Wang family's young master, was a well-known figure in the younger generation. He had a group of friends in Xing City, and they were all direct disciples of various big powers. He was arrogant and wouldn't look down on an outsider like Yi Qinghan. He nodded proudly and said, "We'll listen to Teacher Su. After you defeat them in alchemy, I'll make them kneel on the ground and apologize to you." Yi Qinghan was invited to a luxurious hotel by Yu Tsongxing. He was prepared to relax and prepare for the alchemy competition. The four of them sat in a private room by the window. Yi Qinghan looked out of the window and suddenly saw Mu Zun waving at him anxiously. It was as if something big had happened. Yi Qinghan quickly left the hotel and came to the alley on the opposite side of the street. He frowned and asked, "What's the matter?" "Master, your divine pet divine bird has made a big fuss because of the impersonation of Blessed Buddha. Blessed Buddha has given another order to capture the divine bird within 100 years. At the same time, he has also given you a decree to bring the divine bird to the Blessed Buddha temple to ask for forgiveness." Mu Zun reminded respectfully. Yi Qinghan snorted and asked, "What if I don't go?" "Master, Blessed Buddha Temple has sent 2 holy monks to capture you personally. They've also asked the Bounty Hunter headquarters to send 2 top-notch trackers to cooperate with them. They're currently looking for your tracks. The headquarters trackers are very scary. They can deduce your location with just a trace." Mu Zun replied. Chapter 1738. Yi Qinghan sneered. "Seems like Blessed Buddha is giving him an ultimatum. Is this his last chance? Even if I go to Blessed Buddha Temple, they will send me to hell, and the divine bird will be executed. Blessed Buddha Temple is just like that. If they want to play, then let them. I will accompany them. Kings do not see kings. Blessed Buddha Lord cannot enter the eternal sword Tao sacred ground. Even if Blessed Buddha Temple sends their Saint Buddhas, I will not be afraid." Yi Qinghan snorted coldly. Revered Mu was frightened and didn't dare to respond. The only one who dared to challenge an eternal sovereign was probably Yi Qinghan. Based on your understanding, will the eternal sword Tao sacred ground reach an agreement with blessed Buddha Lord? Or rather, how is their relationship? Yi Qinghan asked. Master, you also understand that kings don't meet kings. These supreme existences have crushed countless corpses and fought countless battles before they finally reach the peak. Not many of them have a good relationship with each other, especially the two neighboring holy lands. Each of them hopes to invade the other's territory. So, I don't think they'll reach any agreement, Mu Zun replied respectfully. Yi Qinghan nodded and said, Then there is no problem. You can leave now, but don't come too close to me. Mu Zun immediately left Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan pondered for a moment. He had nowhere else to go right now. Most importantly, he was still lacking some ingredients for the longevity pellet. He had to rely on the Yu clan and Fire Beacon City to get the longevity pellet and restore his body and life force. Only then would he be able to destroy the heaven-suppressing palace and escape to the Tongtian Daoists' territory. Back at the hotel, Yi Qinghan was not in the mood to eat. After a simple greeting, he returned to the Yu clan and focused on cultivating the blue flame demonic fire to its peak state. In just one night, the major factions had already gathered at the plaza. The leaders were all the leaders of the major factions. Yu Zongxing and Qin Fenghua arrived late with Yi Qinghan and Qin Xianxian. They saw that all the major forces were sitting in their own resting areas, surrounded by alchemists. Most of them were here to learn. At this moment, they were all looking at the alchemy furnaces and the alchemists with anticipation. Yi Qinghan's eyes lit up like torches. He glanced around and found the heaven-suppressing palaces people here too. There were many of them. Senior Yu, what kind of power is this heaven-suppressing palace? Can you explain it to me? Yi Qinghan sat in the resting area of Fire Beacon City and asked curiously. Heaven-suppressing prefecture, this is a rising power. I heard that the prefecture master is a nominal disciple of the Sword Tao Sacred Ground. He is very strong, at the early stage of Sector Lord level 9. However, ordinary Sector Lords are not his match. After he established the heaven-suppressing prefecture, he took over some of the smaller powers. In the end, he joined forces with a few disciples of the Sword Tao Sacred Ground to take over the Lu clan's territory and became the heaven-suppressing prefecture now. Yi Qinghan felt troubled after hearing this. If he wanted to destroy the heaven-suppressing palace, wouldn't he have to offend the Sword Tao Sacred Ground again? Lu clan used to be a big power, right? And yet, it was taken over by the heaven-suppressing palace. Are the Sword Tao Sacred Ground's higher-ups going to let the Sword Tao Sacred Ground's disciples do whatever they want? Yi Qinghan asked softly. Yu Zongxing smiled bitterly. Mister, you are a Saint Pill master. Of course, you don't have to worry about money. But everyone is influenced by money, including the sacred ground. The heaven-suppressing palace's offerings are 10 times more than Lu clan's. Plus, the higher-ups will turn a blind eye to it. Yi Qinghan raised his brow and asked, Then, if I establish a power to suppress the heaven-suppressing palace and send more offerings to the sacred ground every year, won't the Sword Tao Sacred Ground stop interfering? Yu Zongxing and Qin Fenghua nodded at the same time. That's true. But without experts, it's hard to take over the heaven-suppressing palace. The heaven-suppressing palace has been flourishing in recent years. They have many experts and have taken over many mineral veins. They are rich in resources and wealth, attracting countless experts to join them. I'm guessing that the heaven-suppressing palace is now the strongest city. Yi Qinghan asked for a map from Yu Zongxing. He found out that the heaven-suppressing palace's location was very good. It was surrounded by mountains on 2 sides and ocean on 1 side. Both were rich in resources and the other side was a small city. The heaven-suppressing palace had no natural enemies. The Peach Blossom City was the small city to the east of the heaven-suppressing palace. It had almost no defenses and was almost a subsidiary of the heaven-suppressing palace. Further east of the Peach Blossom City was the Sword Dao Sacred Grounds hinterland. Yi Qinghan looked at the map and thought of a plan. He could take over the heaven-suppressing palace without offending the Sword Dao Sacred Ground. Yi Qinghan then asked Yu Congxing and Qin Fenghua about the heaven-suppressing palace's strength. He then found out that the heaven-suppressing palace's strength had been growing rapidly. The heaven-suppressing palace's palace lord had advanced from Realm Lord level 8 to Realm Lord level 9. He even had a few disciples from the Sword Dao Sacred Ground as his friends. Over the years, the heaven-suppressing palace had attracted hundreds of Realm Lord level 4 and above experts to join the heaven-suppressing palace. They were all experts in the Sword Dao, and the territory they controlled was about 3 times the size of the 9 continents. Yi Qinghan drew a red circle on the Peach Blossom City beside the heaven-suppressing palace. He then drew an arrow and pointed it at the heaven-suppressing palace. Yi Qinghan kept the map and looked at the heaven-suppressing palace's resting room. Their city had 5 divine pellet alchemists, and they were all skilled in alchemy. Yet, Fire Beacon City couldn't even hire one. The difference in strength was obvious. However, not long after, Su Zhongxiao came running back to make a fool of himself. Yi Qinghan almost reached out to slap him. Su Zhongxiao was like a wild dog. He would bite anyone he saw and run away immediately. Since you want to play, I'll show you what despair and pain are. I'll show you what it feels like to be pushed into the abyss when you're so close to success, said Yi Qinghan with a cold sneer. At this moment, Nanyuan Zhengbei stepped onto the stage as the vice judge. He looked down at the crowd and said, "The Sword Dao Great Eternal Sacred Grounds Alchemist Competition is jointly sponsored by the Sword Dao Great Eternal Sacred Ground and the Alchemist Association. There are a total of 30,000 sects and clans participating in the competition. There are a total of 100,000 participants. There are 2 purposes for this competition. Firstly, it is to select talented alchemists and nurture them. The Saint Pellet Master is also watching the competition from afar. If any of you can catch his eye, you will be able to become his disciple." The alchemists' eyes were filled with anticipation. It seemed like they already knew the purpose of this alchemist competition. Secondly, it is to select the location of the Alchemist Association's headquarters. This is a once-in-a-thousand-years event, and it's time to change it this year. Every city or clan's territory has a chance. However, you will have to enter the top 3 first, said Nanyuan Zhengbei. Chapter 1739. They were allowed to choose from the 10th grade pills. This way, the beginner pill masters would be able to utilize their strength. It was obvious whether they were talented or not. Qin Xianxian patted her chest. She was glad that she had been taught by Nanyuan Zhengbei in the past 2 days. Otherwise, she wouldn't know anything other than the boundary-breaking pill and the soul-amassing pill. Soon, the first batch of pill recipes was given out. There were 3 recipes in total, all of which were 10th grade pills. They were the most demanded pills. The first was the spirit-amassing pill, the second was the spirit-condensing pill, and the third was the profound phoenix dragon pill. Everyone has 6 hours to successfully refine a cauldron of spirit-amassing pill, spirit-condensing pill, and profound phoenix dragon pill. The grading will be based on the grade of the pill, the refining method, and the time spent refining the pill. I will be the vice judge, and the chief judge, Pill King, will be in charge of this competition. I request that all judges be fair and just. If any pill master feels that the competition has been disrupted or the judges are unfair, they can file an appeal. Nanyuan Zhengbei finished his words and waved his hand. Bring out the ingredients. We will begin refining the pills in half an hour. The Pill King was the strongest pill master below the sage pill masters. He had taught hundreds of pill masters and more than 10 great pill masters. He had countless disciples and disciples. In the eternal sword Tao sacred ground, his status was almost on par with the sage pill masters. Who would dare to disrespect him? Even Nanyuan Zhengbei had to address him as Master. Yi Qinghan looked at the Pill King. He looked kind and dignified. Yi Qinghan didn't have any ill feelings towards him. However, one couldn't judge a book by its cover. Yi Qinghan chose to believe the Pill King. Master, I'm going to participate in the competition. I will definitely pass the first round. Senior Nanyuan taught me how to refine these 3 divine pills the day before yesterday, Qin Xianxian snickered. Yi Qinghan nodded. Be careful. Everyone is using the divine fire. It's normal for there to be interference. Qin Xianxian nodded solemnly and quickly entered the competition area. There was a name in front of each alchemy furnace. After he found his table, someone had already brought the materials to him. Each person had 6 sets of materials, and 2 sets of materials were prepared for each pill formula. Yi Qinghan, Qin Fenghua, and Yu Zongxing looked at Qin Xianxian expectantly, hoping that she would succeed. This was not only about the 15 million bet, but also the glory of becoming a divine alchemist in just 3 months. Yi Qinghan looked at the few participating alchemists around Qin Xianxian. They were all unfamiliar with him, and probably would not purposely disturb Qin Xianxian. However, he was still watching carefully. If Su Zhongxiao bribed others to disturb Qin Xianxian, then this 15 million would be wasted. After half an hour, Nanyuan Zhengbei immediately announced the start of the competition. Whoosh! The temperature around the square became extremely high. The divine fire burned the alchemy furnace and cleaned it. Even the slightest bit of impurities could cause the refinement to fail. Qin Xianxian followed Yi Qinghan's instructions strictly. The first step was to purify the impurities in the alchemy furnace. After all the impurities were cleaned, she began to condense the first pill formula, the Supreme Spirit Gathering Pill. The ingredients were placed into the furnace one by one, and the temperature was raised. Her control was perfect. Yi Qinghan scanned Qin Xuanxuan's alchemy furnace with his divine sense. After feeling the temperature, he could not help but nod in satisfaction. The divine fire that Qin Xianxian controlled was personally trained by Yi Qinghan. The quality of the fire source was very high. While the others were still cleaning their alchemy furnaces, she had already melted all the ingredients in her first furnace. The divine medicine had turned into a liquid and was flowing in the furnace. The fragrance was overwhelming. Whoosh! Condense the pills. Qin Xianxian muttered to herself. She began to lower the temperature and used her mental strength to condense the spirit-gathering pills. 1, 2, 3. She continued to condense 20 spirit-gathering pills. Every single one of them was of the highest grade. This was already a good result. The temperature outside the furnace dropped to the lowest, and the pills were formed. Boom! Qin Xianxian slammed her palm on the alchemy furnace, and the lid popped up. She succeeded on her first try. She was the fastest one. Nanyuan Zhengbei nodded in satisfaction when he saw Qin Xianxian become the first alchemist to open the furnace. He liked Qin Xuanxuan's talent from the bottom of his heart. Whoosh! Qin Xianxian took out 20 divine pills with a smile. All of them were of the highest grade. The surrounding alchemists were envious and shocked. Her speed was too fast. These low-grade divine pills did not consume much of Qin Xuanxuan's mental strength. She cleaned the alchemy furnace again and prepared to condense the spirit-gathering pill. Yi Qinghan stared at the alchemists around Qin Xianxian. He noticed that one of the level 12 alchemists' hands was getting restless. Some of the fire origin was trying to get closer to Qin Xianxian. Yi Qinghan couldn't help but sneer. He leaned against the chair and tapped his fingers on the edge of the chair. Soon, Qin Xuanxuan's second attempt began. After 2 incense sticks of time, he had already started to condense the pills. At this moment, the level 12 alchemist was preparing to condense the first batch of pills. However, he was waiting for Qin Xianxian to interrupt him when he was about to condense the pills. Since the referee was from the Medicine King manor, they had already discussed it. They pretended not to see anything and directly eliminated Qin Xianxian. Whoosh! Qin Xianxian began to condense the pills. At this moment, the level 12 alchemist controlled a wisp of flame and suddenly raised the temperature. It rushed towards Qin Xuanxuan's alchemy furnace. If it reached the furnace, Qin Xuanxuan's spirit-gathering pill would be wasted. The referee obviously saw the level 12 alchemist's actions, but he didn't care. He even intentionally turned his head away. With a flick of his finger, Yi Qinghan extinguished the level 12 alchemist's flame. It didn't even cause a ripple. Then, he stared at the level 12 alchemist. After watching him condense the pills, his eyes flashed and flames shot out. The temperature of the level 12 alchemist's alchemy furnace suddenly increased by more than 10 times. Boom! The pill furnace in the hands of the level 12 alchemist rumbled, and all of the medicinal pills inside were shattered into pieces. The alchemist's hands were red, and he screamed miserably as he fell to the ground, almost sending his pill furnace flying. Yi Qinghan's lips curled into a cold smile. This was just a small lesson. Nanyuan Zhengbei and the Medicine King looked at the level 12 alchemist at the same time. They didn't notice Yi Qinghan's trick, but they didn't understand why the flames that person controlled suddenly increased by more than 10 times. With that person's strength, it was obvious that he couldn't use a godly flame of this level. The referee in front of the level 12 alchemist frowned. He also felt that there was something wrong with the fire origin. He looked around and didn't see anyone who could control the temperature. Yi Qinghan was sitting far away. It was impossible for him to change the fire origin of other alchemists. He also wouldn't be suspicious. Since he couldn't find the culprit, he could only give up. The level 12 alchemist's face was ferocious. He stared at Qin Xianxian. However, Qin Xianxian was still condensing his pills. He didn't even look at him. I want to report her. This B***TCH is interfering with me. The young man scolded. The two head judges stared at Qin Xianxian. The referee didn't dare to act recklessly. He quickly reprimanded, "Don't disturb others. She is at the crucial moment of condensing her pills. How can she interfere with you? Even this old man can't do that. What nonsense." You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.